You better be listening to Sleazoids or I must break you.
Raging unseen behind the Dark Empire. Secret power bids for the soul of a city. Steeped in the blood of an undeclared war. Haunted by memories of betrayal and driven by revenge. The fallen warrior will battle a nemesis, seduced by the promise of absolute power.
Hey everyone, welcome back to our episode of Sleazoids, the podcast where we go down the rabbit hole of 20th century genre fare from the most influential canon classics to the trashiest exploitation films we can get our hands on and invite you to tag along in helping us create a canon of sleaze. Each week is a double feature grindhouse style where we discuss two films loosely related by subject, genre, actor, filmmaker, or franchise. And at the end of each episode, along with our honorary Sleazoid, which you can become by subscribing on Patreon.
Next week, we are going into the trash once again and revisiting a franchise that we've done before. So join the sleaze.
That's right. We decide on all the official ratings and rankings for every film that we cover as well. Patreon subscribers also get an honor shout out and 2 bonus episodes every single month, which we have been doing for like 7 years now. There's like 190, coming up on 200 bonus episodes.
Crazy.
As well as our bonus transmission series, which we have done like 65 of now. So there's a ridiculous amount of episodes waiting for you over at patreon.com/sleazoids podcast if you are interested. And speaking of which, we had a bunch of people make the jump this week. We're going to give them their shout outs here. And I'm going to have to rip through these ones. Sorry, guys. There's a lot of you this week. We had Jim Nilavita, Cody Downs, Chris Kaminsky, who signed up at our annual tier and is getting an entire year of the show in advance for a discounted monthly rate. We had sign up again. I think he's been here before. We had Matthew Stansolovich, JR, Brian Gross, Nikki, Max Pomerantz, Joseph Lally, Meet Sam Denisa, Chase Pudis. I think I have actually done some of these before. Jay Merriweather, Arrow Zeppelin, Rob Sotheth, Marcus, Mark Addison, Ryan Hoyt, Tyler, Jameson, McGonigal, Tim Viggers. If we're doing them twice, who cares? You guys signed up.
Yep, shout
Sandy Palacios, Michael. Oh my God, bro. Noralik. I am so sorry.
I think you nailed it. I can't see it, but...
It's got little like Norwegian symbols in it.
Okay.
Always glad to know we got international listeners out there. Some of you guys got those shirts shipped to some countries I wasn't expecting.
Oh, cool.
Nolan Tuck, Frank, Parker Houston, Henry Soder, Duve, Stu, Connor, and last but not least, Matthew Erdman. So thanks so much to all of you folks. Hope you're enjoying all those bonus episodes. We appreciate that support a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much.
That's the one plug for the week. The other plug, as always, is Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're listening on either one of those platforms, and I can see the stats, I can see you right now listening on both those platforms, give us a good old rating and a review over there. It really does help us climb the ranks and find new listeners, and we appreciate that support as well. And the last plug is merch, which once again, we've been announcing it for a few episodes now at this point, but we are still considering it new merch. There is new merch designed by a friend of the pod, Brandon Lim of Black Belt Cinema. He did an incredible blowout-inspired design that included a couple other pod favorite movies on it, like The Beyond and To Live and Die in LA and Videodrome. It's a very, very great design. We were stoked to see it in person for everyone who came out to our screening. If you haven't got yours yet, they've already been shipping. Some people have already been receiving theirs, and we actually sold so many. We did a second print run already, and we're restocked. So if you missed out on the first printing, there is more in. The link is in the description of this episode, as well as over at sleazoidspodcast.com. And also, I forgot, there is a Sleazoids Podcast dad cap as well.
Yes.
With a sort of like neon yellow, just embroidered logo. And I got to say, I've heard some people around town have been wearing them out there.
Sweet.
And, I've been asking people to get photos of people wearing them anytime we see them, because we're still a little stoked
Just
about it.
sneak the pic and run away.
That's right. They're out there. But yeah, so interested in that, again, link in this episode description. But that is it for the plugs. Welcome back another week. As always, I'm your host, Josh Lewis, and joining me also, as always, is my co-host,
Jamie Miller. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome. I believe 2 weeks ago would have been the last time you folks over here on the main feed would have heard from us, where we would have had special guests, Lucinda Mason and Kai Perignon from Australia, who are some of our favorite trash fiend Letterboxd follows, and also a wonderful couple who watch extreme cinema together. And they were like, we are going to challenge the boys. We're going to challenge the name Sleazoids, and we are going to make them watch two hardcore pornographic horror films from the 1970s. We talked about Through the Looking Glass, directed by Jonas Middleton, which was a very sort of eerily stylized kind of gothic horror film about just like, you know, sort of generational abuse and all kinds of really harrowing things that just also happened to feature on-screen blowjobs, and was shot by the guy who shot Friday the 13th Part 4, and was scored by the guy who eventually scored Friday the 13th, the whole franchise basically too. So it was kind of a neat little thing to for them to show us. And then we paired it with Roberta Findlay's A Woman's Torment, which was once again a kind of like imagine something like a Doris Wishman doing one of her sort of Repulsion riffs, but if it had hardcore pornographic sex scenes in it and also really graphic sort of proto slasher murder in it. And yeah, that one was very unsettling to watch.
Yeah, honestly, both, where it's like they made porns that were entirely unpleasant to watch, including all of the sex scenes, because of the context of them all are usually very gross and whatever else. So yeah, but
Through the Looking Glass, they literally go to sex hell and watch a guy ejaculate into his own mouth, and you're just like, okay.
Oh my god, it is something else. But to be honest, Through the Looking Glass is a beautiful looking film, which I was not expecting. It has some great cinematography and A Woman's Torment too has some really cool direction, like some unique POVs and some really good sound designs. So yeah, they're worth checking out 100%.
Yeah, they were definitely, you know, very artistic for what they were, and you can even watch one of them on 4K Blu-ray now, because that's just the
hell yes.
the world
we live in, baby.
So if you haven't heard that episode, that was 2 weeks ago over on the main feed. But then last week over on the bonus feed for the patrons exclusively, it was finally time. We were wrapping up summer, and it's the 50th anniversary of a big movie everyone's been talking about, one that you guys have almost voted for us to cover many times on this show, and we finally said, we'll just do it. We finally talked about Steven Spielberg's Jaws, because we said, if we're going to do an episode completely dedicated to 70s hardcore pornography, we've earned being able to do one of the big boys every so often. And so obviously we talked about Jaws. We don't really need to explain Jaws, but the pairing was actually one that you guys voted for, or tried to vote for a couple different times, that you guys wanted to hear us talk about, which was a film, one of my favorite Jaws ripoff movies alongside like Razorback, a movie called Alligator from 1980, directed by Louis Teague, starring Robert Forster, going head to head with a sewer alligator in Chicago. Yeah.
And honestly, like Forster brings a really grounded presence to what should be just an absolutely ridiculous movie, and it is kind of fun to watch him balance those tones, and it has some great mood. Like it has, you know, I love all the shadows of the alligator mouth, and yeah, Jaws is just a classic, and it was fun to be reminded of why it is.
Yeah, every once in a while you forget that, I have a movie like that memorized, and I just don't rewatch it that often. And then I watch it again and I'm like, yeah, there's a reason that everyone says this is the best movie. So we went into extensive detail about our love of Jaws, and also, you know, some lot of fun to be had with Alligator, especially learning that Bryan Cranston apparently was the one who filled that alligator dummy filled with guts and then exploded it in one of his first production assistant gigs. So fun little details you'll find included on the Blu-ray some of these movies. But yeah, if you haven't heard that episode, again, that was last week over on the Patreon. But moving on to this week, we are joined by a first-time guest that we've been talking about having on the show for a while. Many of you might know him as Speed Eraserhead online, or you might even know his secondary Twitter account, which is one of my favorites on the entire website, called Daily Squibs, which is exactly what it sounds like. It is awesome clips of movies with squibs in them, posted every day. And that guest is Christian. Christian, welcome.
Pleasure to be here, fellas.
First podcast where we've heard.
Yeah, I will try and keep it as sort of solemn and dignified as I possibly can.
Luckily, you don't
exactly
have
what
to
the
do
show
it on
requires.
the show. Yeah. Luckily,
I'm
this is your
thrilled to-
first show.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. I'm friends with longtime guest Perry Rowland, who has told me,
The
who's
boy.
sung your virtues and has sort of said it's a great place to shoot the shit about great movies.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Shout
mean,
out
Pleasure
to
to
Perry.
be pleasure to be here.
He was telling us last time he was on that he made you watch after last season, and you had
Yes, he did.
us too.
Us too.
We can all bond.
I since once he told me he was like programming it for your slot, I decided to rewatch it, and now, unfortunately, I also think it's like a pure cinema masterpiece.
Nice.
you
Maybe
go.
I got to give it another shot. It's the second time around where it really unlocks.
Perry's,
So good. There's
Perry's
nothing like
entire
it.
role in life is to convert people.
All right, I'll drift off of after last season. There's a whole episode pitching people on it.
Round two, we're going again after last season. Jamie, bring up the notes.
Yeah, let's go, baby. I got them in my phone. They're ready to go.
Yeah, well, hey, I'm glad that we are the first person to reach out to the Daily Squibs account and be like, we want to talk about movies that have awesome squibs in them, which is kind of what I figured that you would bring for us when we were going to be talking today. So, Christian, what movies, two movies, have you brought with you today, and why did you pair them together?
The two movies I have today are Naked Killer from 1992 and Full Contact from 1992. And I saw that you guys hadn't covered Full Contact before. And that's a movie very near and dear to me, movie magic. So that was my first lock. And then I was trying to think of other sort of similarly high vibrational Hong Kong action movies from around the same time. And I landed on Naked Killer. And it pairs very well because they're both from the same year and they both sort of co-star Simon Yam and have a similar sort of aesthetic hysteria. So it felt like they paired well together. And one of them is about the fellas and one of them is about the dames. So there were some nice rhymes in that
revenge.
pairing that felt about right to me.
Yeah.
These are two of my favorite sort of Hong Kong action thriller sort of. I don't know.
Both a
what
little
they're
bit
action
hornier
thrillers.
too than
Oh,
like the
yeah.
more respectable
Yes.
John
Oh,
Woo
absolutely.
entries.
Yeah, a lot of sexual tension in these movies, if not just
Absolutely.
outright some softcore scenes, which is just it's to mix all of that.
I
with
mean, the title
yeah.
Naked
gunplay.
Killer kind of announces itself a little bit,
Absolutely.
I think. But even Full Contact, had some moments going on where I was like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
So I was thrilled to sort of bring these ones on and talk to some first timers, as I understand it. Josh, you had not seen Full Contact.
I had not
before.
seen either. Yeah, Naked Killer I actually had not heard of, and Full Contact was one that I had been actually kind of saving because I did enjoy City on Fire when we covered that. And honestly, weirdly enough, I'm really familiar with Ringo Lam's Jean-Claude Van Damme era of like
Really?
Maximum
Right.
Risk and Replicant and In Hell. Because when we did our Jean-Claude month, even outside of what we covered on it, I watched as many as I could. So I have seen... I'd like 40 some odd Jean-Claude films. And that Ringo Lam's era of still making them in the early 2000s, they're noticeably kind of like nasty and unpleasant kind of movies.
Yeah, that rocks. I'm really only
he shot in
familiar-
Toronto because he went to film school in Toronto. So I was like, this is... Ringo Lam, very interesting filmmaker, and Full Contact did not disappoint in the slightest.
Yeah, I'm
glad
really
I
only
saved
familiar with his pre-handover stuff, so I should boot up some of his Jean-Claude joints.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't want
they're
to
good.
overplay
decent.
them or anything like that, but Maximum Risk especially was the one that we covered on the show, which we had a blast with. It was before he got into really going absurd with Choi Hark, which was maybe even the knockoff was like we
as a
love that so
knockoff
much.
shooter.
Yeah, knockoff is amazing.
So
Yeah, I saw
good.
that on a print a couple years ago, and I was like, "What the hell?"
God. I would kill to find whoever had that and bring that to Toronto.
Yeah.
That would be a Sleazoid's dream screening if we could pull it off.
Absolutely.
It was a couple weeks after Paul Sorvino had passed away, and there was a really beautiful sort of moment of applause among the crowd when Paul Sorvino
Wow.
shows up in that. Not to get sidetracked, knockoff. I turn now to the Sleazoids audience, I also recommend this to you, but I will not get distracted by Knockoff. Beautiful film.
We're gonna be
Pure
doing
cinema
that a
as
lot.
well.
Yeah. No, we're definitely hanging out with the Hong Kong filmmakers, definitely in that sort of over stylized post heroic bloodshed kind of era here, and yeah, we're excited to jump into these ones that are maybe a little bit lesser known than the John Woo and sort of the Choi Hark of it all. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about Naked Killer. All right, we are talking Naked Killer, the 1992 Hong Kong erotic gangster assassin action thriller directed by Clarence Folk, written by Wong Jing and starring Ching-Mei Yao and Carrie Ng, as well as Simon Yam, of course, who is playing the sort of detective who was on the prowl for these professional assassins and this female league of assassins who are doing all kinds of bodily harm, mostly penis violence to the various men that they are.
A lot of gooch stabbing in this, absolutely.
Targeting. But this is our first time talking about the Hong Kong filmmaker Clarence Fa, a pretty prolific director of Hong Kong television in the late 70s and early 80s, who made the transition to directing films, willing to make just about any type of film, crime, comedy, action, science fiction, whatever. He made a couple lesser known sort of Chow Yun-Fat and Andy Lau movies I had heard of. I've been meaning to watch The Iceman Cometh for a while. And because people frequently compare that one to Demolition Man, I hear a lot. And I know that it was also written by Johnny Mock of Long Arm of the Law fame, and we covered that recently, and I was like, that was another one of his that I should probably check out. But his biggest international success was this erotic thriller, Naked Killer, which was written and produced by the legendarily prolific Hong Kong writer, producer, director, actor Wong Jing, who between 1981 and today has 200 plus writing and producing credits, has 100 plus directing credits, and nearly 100 acting ones. He is incredibly famous in Hong Kong for the fact that he runs multiple production companies, including one called Wong Jing's Workshop. And he works on so much stuff and offsets so much work onto sort of a very collaborative sort of crew. He's basically always working on like 10 movies at the same time, which Wong Jing Tourism is maybe hard to pinpoint exactly because of that. But at the same time, there's a lot of people who have seen a lot of his movies who go, no, it doesn't have a lot of really crude juvenile humor in it. It's a Wong Jing movie.
So speaking as one of those guys who has watched a lot of Wong Jing, what was your sort of prior experience with Mr. Wong Jing before this? Because I would say he is definitely sort of the relevant auteur of this one.
Yeah, the biggest one, and honestly, I can see it, that we've covered on this show was The Seventh Curse. Which was one where the sense of just ridiculously manic energy and like the movie being kind of structureless and just absorbing new details and a new monster and a new this or that, and also the crazy, ridiculous rom-com gender politics of 80s Hong Kong that was all stuff that we experienced a lot in The Seventh Curse. And so it was, I think, the only reason I had any sort of grounding for what Naked Killer was when I was looking at who wrote it. I was like, oh, that's the main one that I've seen, but I've actually not seen like his big ones like God of the Gamblers or Magic Crystal. I know that he did a Cynthia Rothrock and a Jet Li movie, multiple as well.
So Wong Jing's, he did multiple Jet Li movies, and weirdly, both of them have or not both of them, he's done more than that, but there are two different
it looks
Jet
like the
Li
big
movies.
one is High Risk, and then there's another one called The Enforcer, Legend of the Red Dragon.
He also
There's
did
a bunch
Last
of these.
Hero in China, which is a parody of the Once Upon a Time in China movies that he made with Jet Li because Jet Li was mad at Choi Hark and left the franchise, and then he made a parody of them with Wong Jing.
Wow.
I'd love to see
Yeah, and
that.
High Risk also has a very sort of Wong Jing internal politics joke I think about all the time, where he made a movie with Jackie Chan called City Hunter. And Wong Jing did not get along with Jackie Chan, and Jackie Chan did not get along with Wong Jing. They were kind of oil and water insensibility, because Wong Jing is considerably raunchier than I think Jackie feels comfortable with. And Wong Jing just kind of did not get along with Jackie Chan. And in High Risk, Jet Li plays the bodyguard and enforcer of this Hong Kong action star who's like really lame and cowardly and uses a bunch of stunt people and is implied to have a small dick.
Wong
Which
Jing,
is
man.
very beautiful to me. Wong Jing is a sort of figure of fascination to me, because he is sort of like, I don't know, I've seen him compared to Michael Bay, but I don't think that's quite it. I don't think that sort of gets at each man's respective strength. He's sort of like if Friedberg and Seltzer had like A-list movie clout, like and could work with all the sort of high-level technicians and movie stars and stuff that they wanted, and made absolute bank at the box office. Like God of the Gamblers is Wong Jing doing like a Chow Yun-Fat action movie for the first 30 minutes, and then Chow Yun-Fat gets hit on the head and turns into like Simple Jack, and it's like bad taste comedy for the rest of the movie. And it was so influential, it blew up the box office so much that like gambling action movies became a viable subgenre in Hong Kong for like the next decade.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable.
I got to see that now too.
And he's got so many movies like that where he's just making like insane waves off of insane like raw-id, bad taste, you know, toilet humor and fucking...
Is it just because he
like
gets people behind the camera and directing that have such style that sometimes it can overcome some of the questionable narrative or themes or what have
I guess it must be. It's a sort of feature that I love about this era of the Hong Kong industry, where there really is no separation in the talent pool from like the A-list and the B, like A pitchers and B pitchers, where like the opening credits of this very, very sleazy movie, Naked Killer, is shot by the DP of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah. And the killer.
Yeah, and it
crazy.
features like Simon Yam, who would go on to be like winning major Hong Kong film awards. And they're, I don't know, everybody just moves freely from the like really sleazy exploitation stuff to the like prestige pictures. And it means you get like real technicians and like real craftsmanship going to insane bad taste premises like Naked Killer.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the huge appeal of this movie, if we're going to get into it, which is that like it is like the thing about this movie specifically is that you could compare this to other sort of ridiculously stylized Hong Kong gun fu sort of actioners of this era, and there's many things where you would go, yeah, this is shot by the same people, or this is scored by the same people, it stars the same people, and it's enough of the real thing that you are like, well, you know, I already love this. Like I knew from the opening moments, the first action scene, I was like, oh, I already, like, it's ridiculous and it's manic and it's over the top, and part of it is, you know, it's got some wide angle, almost like Raimi-esque absurdity to it. But I was already primed to love something like this even before it takes it off the rails, and maybe that's why I was also able to adjust to the swerves that a filmmaker like Wong Jing likes to take, because I do think you have to be a little prepared for it, because I did not realize and did not read enough about the movie to know that it was a category 3
it sure is,
you know, sort of vulgar 90s erotic thriller, which I know we've talked about category 3 a couple times, but essentially the Hong Kong sort of X rating that they would receive. And obviously as a result, they could go pretty crazy with what they graphically show you on screen, but honestly more specifically with what characters would say to each other and some of the nastiness of how they just talk that makes you uncomfortable. And
I have a couple lines written down in my notes, some
please
choice
give us a few.
phrases used. The threat where it's like, I'll squeeze your tits till they burst is like, what the hell?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Wong Jing, man. That's just how ladies talk.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
according to Wong Jing, you know, like just
Well, that's like everything with this movie is kind of that mix is sex and violence, and they're just constantly interwoven throughout the film.
Yeah, the other line, are you teaching me to be a killer or a hooker?
Right. And then she says like they're the same logistics, or they're kind of like the same.
Yeah, your body is a better weapon than like anything else. So there's all kinds of lines like this because like functionally this is about you know, essentially
it's about the best gender politics of all time.
That's exactly what it's
right.
about. It is about an elite sort of squad of sexy black leather clad lesbian and bisexual femme fatale contract assassins who again gruesomely shoot, stab, maim, and dismember the penises of their male targets, who are frequently, you know, gangsters or rapists they are already being sort of contracted out to kill, and they are just taking literal pleasure in their work, both on their targets and also on each other, because this movie has a bizarre thing where it is essentially like both an ostensible empowering thing about lady action stars who are the main characters, but at the same time it is funneled through so much writing and photography that is just pure fetish fantasy for guys. But then also genuinely gross and unpleasant in the things you have to watch happen. And it is a very confusing movie in that kind of way, where you're like, I can see how this is meant to be pleasurable to me as a male viewer. And on the other hand, there is a large section of the movie that is like the Lau Kar-Lung defanging an 8-diagram pole fighter, but it's just cocks being violated or castrated.
I would say a relevant thread. I would say a relevant thread is that this is also intended to be a star vehicle for Wong Jing's then girlfriend at the time.
That makes a lot of sense.
Who he encouraged. This was like, I guess it's a thing in the Hong Kong film industry that like once you do a like sort of more sexual roles as an actress, that your career is sort of colored that way, and those become then the roles that you're offered. And he was trying to like make the push for her to get into stuff like that, which is, I think, a little sleazy, as befits everything else Wong Jing has ever said and done. But I don't know. It definitely colors like how and fetishized everything in this movie is.
I'm assuming that's the lead, right? Kitty?
Yes.
Is that
Kitty.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
that makes sense.
She's
the way
pretty
she's
good.
Shot. Yeah, she is very good. Yeah, I do like the way that the way that they also do kind of these Dutch angles and stuff as her character gets a little bit more into the whole the assassin world and everything, and they still present her as the femme fatale with these these big elaborate kind of fashion items like big hats and things like that. And
yes, so it was over 1 million Hong Kong dollars for costuming alone.
Oh, wow.
And I think mostly, like usually with like Hong Kong productions like this, you get like companies to sponsor the production and sort of contribute clothes and stuff. But for this film, they couldn't do that because all the costumes were so strange. And so they were like looking for like antique clothes in like London and Paris and stuff. And that is like a lot of the costuming in this. The costuming in this is like incredible.
You can tell the costuming and the sets as well. Like sometimes they have these like really colorful pastel walls, but then they have like this like monochromatic like tile flooring to it, and the lighting choices are wild.
It was kind of reminding me a little bit of that like music video quality with those deep blues and curtains and things. It was like The Hunger with Scott directing. And even in this beginning where there's
like
of
billowing
mixes,
curtains and stuff.
And it's so just over the top and larger than life, and it's almost like they're setting up for like a fashion model shoot, but instead you're just watching somebody get ready for their normal night out or whatever it is. And then they're still mixing, like in this introduction, they're mixing the two where you have the masked women with the guns in this very dark room that is just, heavily implies assassins and
they're like grabbing a knife blade, in the sort of montage of this like erotic thriller meets like 80s music video aesthetic. That's what the entire opening is before switching you over into the prologue of the film, which is this absurd sort of voyeur thriller murder where a very stylish woman who we later find out is one of the sort of ruthless assassins in the film named Princess. She goes into an apartment to shower, and you're led through the vocabulary of the film to think that this is sort of a male criminal is following a woman into her apartment to attack her. And we find out quite quickly that, when she puts on the sort of Mozart CD and gets into the shower, and it turns out that this guy is coming home to his own place and she's tricking him into thinking that she's vulnerable. So while being in the shower so that she can beat the shit out of him, send him flying across the room, crush his head in with dumbbells.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happens in quick. She shoots all of his limbs. To like, and his penis. As he's crawling across the room away from her, she like trips him with a dumbbell to get him on his feet, and then she crushes
and
his,
also works out with it briefly.
Yeah, she like flips up onto the ceiling onto like a chin-up bar and uses that to like, she crushes his head with two dumbbells, then in midair kicks him across the room onto like exercise equipment, then shoots him in the dick.
Yeah, and the way that this is shot is going to translate to the rest of the film too, because like you said, it's so quick. Like these are very quick cuts, but I do think that every single cut is essential to just understanding the logistics of everything that's going on. It is fast, but I never felt it was, incoherent or anything like that. It just feels like it's so much is happening at once. And I do like, too, that he kind of follows with the camera. Like when she pushes the dumbbell to trip him, the camera actually kind of follows it roll along the floor. And then everything feels just very kinetic that way. Like everything just goes into each shot very smoothly.
Yeah, kinetic is definitely the word, because I would argue that this is incredibly hyperactive to the point where some people I think will be thrown off by that. But I do think that it is staged and choreographed in enough of a way of the Hong Kong sort of strategy of shooting this stuff that it is like followable for sure. But even I was just surprised that like the manic wide angle way that it was kind of shot. And like I was sitting here thinking of people like Sam Raimi and Peter Jackson a little bit, rather than thinking of like when I finally went and put on the Ringo Lam movie, I was like, it was like it came back to me that this is what these movies are more normally like, that I was like, there's patience to and weight behind the punch, whereas this one, I don't think it's like bad. I just do think that like it doesn't linger on the same intensity of like, look at how controlled and well staged this bit of action is. It really is like we're trying to propulsively throw insanity at you.
It's as I understand it, the director Clarence Folk helped like design most of the action himself, and he was like a part of the Jackie Chan stunt team for like a couple years. Along with one of the other guys who gets stabbed in the dick in this movie, which is where they met.
That narrows it down. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, and he was, I think, very influenced by like manga anime stuff. The movie he made before this was The Dragon from Russia, which was an adaptation of a manga, Crying Freeman. And he was very taken by sort of those aesthetics. He said he loved how the Japanese drew Canton.
That makes a lot of sense watching this, honestly.
And it reminds me a lot of like Choi Hark productions from this era as well, where it's like massive wire work pulls at all times for the impacts, where it's like, I don't want to say, it's not low impact, but it's like, so the impacts are all so surreally massive. It feels like very untethered to like normal gravity and physics in very pleasing ways to me. But as I understand it, is not always everyone's cup of tea.
It also has that same, like once we get into the more gunplay stuff, it also has that kind of chaos that it doesn't feel like bullets are ever hitting anybody, but 1,000 bullets are traveling at all times. But I always love that because it just creates this like onslaught into your brain of just constant dopamine, even if some of it doesn't make any sense. It feels like it's just trying to express how how absolutely over the top the situation is and how dangerous it is, even though everyone is kind of getting away besides the henchmen.
So many scenes in this where like a dozen like random goons like pour in from every like entrance.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, who do these guys work for?
Some of it is funny in a way too, where it's like they'll be having a full-on battle between three of them that feels more intimate, and then afterwards it's like the guys were out to lunch and they're like 30 minutes later they've heard the alarms or something. Like, oh shit, we got to get to this. So they'll show up.
Ladies are fighting. We need to give Simon Yam something to do. All right, send in the fellas.
Yeah, exactly. But I do love the almost lack of logic, I guess, with this film a lot of the time.
Well, that is what you're going to get a lot of with a Wong Jing script in this scenario, because assigned to the case of these sort of, we're led to believe that this opening murder we see is a sort of string of murders of high profile men, whether they're in business or whether they're sort of triad or where the sort of connective tissue between them all is that their penises are violated or dismembered in sort of some capacity. And so obviously there is a man detective assigned to this case, played by Simon Yam, who he's previously talked about in John Woo's Bullet in the Head, which came out before this, and Johnny To's The Mission, which is I think our most recent conversation about him. He's a fantastic actor, and he immediately suspects that a woman is involved because he's like, I wonder if this case of graphic overkill,
seemingly because they've had their genitals ripped off, is like, of course it's a female killer.
A guy would not do this. This is insane.
Yeah. No man would do this to another man. This would be, it's not fair game. There's
okay.
Exactly. And so he's investigating all of these penis mutilations, and he is given, in one of my favorite Wong Jing touches, a classic movie cop backstory of having been sort of recently reinstated after months of psychotherapy after having accidentally shot his brother while on the job, which is something actually that you would see a lot in an 80s crime film, is that this is the kind of emotional arc that a character would go through as he needs to, kind of find his masculinity and find his strength again.
Do I recall correctly? It's kind of like Basic Instinct. It's like Douglas's backstory in Basic Instinct.
It is. Yes. And this came out, I read some other people mention.
He saw it in America.
Before
it was released in Hong Kong.
Amazing.
I went through a lot of the extras on the DVD I have, so my fountain of knowledge is not just off the dome.
Incredible. Okay, because Basic Instinct did come out 9 months before this movie, and I was like, is that enough turnaround that he could have seen it?
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Because what he does is, a lot of his stuff is he just takes sort of the templates from other American action and then just sort of fills it in. So there's a lot of like La Femme Nikita in this as well, which is just like Wong Jing just putting it in there, plug and play. It's so funny to think of this as like ruthless industry product, where I believe the shooting schedule of this was just like 18 full days, and then the premiere was a week after they finished shooting.
Oh my god!
Seeing too
how they do it is they like edit they like shoot for the edit, and they just like have the finished film basically right at the end of shooting. Yeah, they just bang the shit, and it's crazy that it's this.
Yeah, I am seeing too that Clarence Falk once was by the producer Mario Kasser was supposed to direct Basic Instinct 2. Which is kind of interesting. He didn't do it, I guess. But
what could have been?
I think that's known as being a really bad movie.
I mean, I was gonna say you almost pretty much have it right here, because I mean, if you were wondering like what Sharon Stone's Catherine
Stone wire work would have been great.
Yeah, what she would have been doing if she was in a Hong Kong like actioner from this era, and what she would do in terms of both being sort of this like sexy fantasy object, but also this kind of seductive, manipulative, sort of violent misandrist revenge. It's just done in this sort of maximalist register. It's exactly what this film is. Actually, around the time my brain was like, he had to have is when Kitty does the leg crossing thing at one point too. I was like, come on, man. That's like just that's but yeah. So Simon Yam is given the same Michael Douglas arc, but with a Wong Jing flavor to it, which I'm going to say is the sort of exaggerated karmic punishment of him being unable to literally even hold a gun without throwing up, because that is how much of a sort of weak man that he is now. And he's literally been made impotent by this, by this sort of traumatic experience he had on the job, which is why meeting this woman, she gives him a boner. And that is like the dramatic thrust of the movie. His first time having a boner since he's been traumatized. And that is why he ends up going down the Michael Douglas rabbit hole.
He pours his heart out to his partner and is like, it's the first time I've ever gotten a boner. And since I've shot this is like a meaningful character beat. And
since I shot my brother.
They even do a little beat where they like both look down and then look back up at each other and everything. Yeah. Like there's one part too near the finale where this comes into play where it's actually physically stopping him from saving somebody because he's holding the gun and trying not to vomit at the same time. It is taken, again, this is taken like pretty seriously, but because the style is so heightened, I think that it does help with like just kind of the suspension of disbelief of just going along with every crazy thing that's happening.
By the time it's introduced, the tone of the drama is quote unquote.
I mean,
drama
we've got that intro kill. That intro kill is such a tone setter.
Yeah, definitely.
It's so insane that I was like ready to go with. But even just like scenes of people talking to each other, I was like, oh yeah, like the one girl who comes in screaming to her barbershop boyfriend that she's pregnant, and him being just like, well, what if I just kick you in the gut, you know?
Yeah.
And well, that'll deal with that.
That's the thing too, is that there's this mix between like it is so over the top, so it's a little silly, but it's still never holding back any punches. It's very ruthless the entire time as well. That can I could imagine that could be a little bit maybe hard on some people. For me, it again, there's such a thing that just doesn't feel grounded in any real reality that it allows me to just keep riding the wave, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you're instructed on how seriously you're supposed to be taking the movie by the sort of acrobatic absurdity and the exaggerated way that it's shot and how it's stylized and everything. But it still is like when the crudest, most graphically juvenile moments happen in this film, there were still parts of me that went, can he get away? Can he really? Really?
It really does. It really does remind me a lot of like Cat 3 stuff where they're so sleazy and so like just nasty fucking movies, but they're so nasty to the point of like farce almost, where it's like you pass through the veil. Like this is just, it's really fucking funny.
Yeah. And I mean, even the stuff that's, you know, supposed to be more romantic, like when they go on the date and they start to make out, like he's just so aggressively making out with her boobs.
Everything's so overtuned in this.
You're like, it's like they seem to both be having a good time, but that is, holy hell, he's really going for it. And then they still also have like a comedic beat that's built into it where a couple was in that car that they're making out on the side of as well. Yeah. So there's still like it does feel like he wants to have fun with all of this craziness and even the romance and the sex and all that.
Well, it even moves so fast that when something like maybe goes a little too far for you, it's the moment is usually like already over. You know, like I even watching it, I was like, okay, so like right away, you know, he runs into this girl Kitty, who is the one who beats stabs that dude in the dick who is assaulting his sort of pregnant girlfriend. The
hairdresser. There's a harrowing scene where 30 seconds where the hairdresser is beating up his like pregnant girlfriend, and then our lead woman immediately puts POV shot of her putting out a cigarette in his eye, knees him in the crotch, clubs him in the head, and then repeatedly stabs him in the dick with scissors.
Yep.
Yes.
And it happens like inside of a minute.
Instant karma.
And it just so happens that like Yam just happens to be there and is like, I mean, I guess I'll chase this woman down, but at the same time, she's just trying to help the other girl escape. And obviously, he's not ready to be in these kind of violent altercations. He's feeling sick and confused and dizzy. And she comes back to him and kind of feels bad, like a little bit of being like, oh, like this guy doesn't seem as bad as some of the other guys. And she explains that, you know, that guy was a dick and deserved it. And that's why, you know, he's going to let her go, even though it's clear he couldn't even bring her in if he tried, because she is
she steals his gun and then like waves it in front of his face, and then he immediately throws up.
Yes. But
You shouldn't even be having it on him. I don't even. Seems like
it doesn't even
seems
make
like a
sense.
disadvantage to him.
Yeah. Imagine if like Jimmy Stewart in like Vertigo, it was just like every time he got sick, every single time he like looked at his waist.
Yeah, you know? Dude needs a whistle like in the other guys.
You know,
isn't that one of John Woo's American films? Is like where it's it's one of Dolph Lundgren where he has like a phobia of the color white, and every time he sees something white, he has like a freak out. So beautiful.
Was it called Blackjack? Was it the one where he?
The card guy. Yeah.
Because it was the one that was going to be a pilot.
Yeah, the Hong Kong action interpretation of human psychology is so beautiful to me.
I know, it's awesome. It's great.
Yeah, but then their romance obviously kicks off because she, I guess, kind of sees him as like one of the few guys who's just like not as monstrously evil as like many of the other ones we see across the film, and she makes him drive her around and take her shopping.
The way that their romance begins is fucking insane. It's because when he lets her get away, he leaves his pager behind, and then she like calls him on it, I believe, and like wants to go out with him, and then he says no, just drop by the police station, and sort of hangs up, and she's like, this guy's really rude, so what I'm gonna do is swing by his police department and file a report, pretend like I'm filing a false. It's insane bad. This is like the Wong Jing shit, like insane bad taste conceits.
Yeah, like the drama from his perspective is that he thinks she's filing a false rape allegation against him, and then it turns out that she's filing a report saying that he is a hero cop who saved her from a rapist, which is how she's going to get assigned by, or he's going to get assigned by his boss to then hang out with her. And
she treats it like a tee-hee funny thing. There's a shot of her like winking at him with like prominent Coke machine on the other side of the frame. It's
introducing
insane.
him to her father, who is getting cheated on by his wife with a younger businessman named B, which triggers a martial arts fight with that guy and him falling down the stairs to his death because he was holding scissors, which then fall into his chest.
2 minutes. And inside of 2 minutes, we meet the father, learn he's being cheated on by his wife, and then the boyfriend kills him brutally in front of his daughter, who is the lead of this. It's dizzying.
She chases him around briefly with a butcher knife, which she doesn't end up killing him with, but she later catches up with him at his corporate head office where she guns down.
Workplace shooting on his corporate office.
Oh yeah.
Yes. But like full like gun fu style, like smashing his head on the floor, shooting him in the ass.
Stabbing him
like
in
the
cheeks, as she's been doing throughout the entire movie. Yep. Oh yeah. There's one part too where they actually hold like her legs and then start kicking her in the crotch. Like
kicking her in the crotch.
General genital violence in this movie. It's pretty wild in that sense. And then this is where they go into the parking lot and they meet the sister.
Maybe the most impressive action set piece in the movie.
Insane narrative swerve, because she goes to like escape the business that she's just done a workplace shooting on. So she takes this random woman hostage, and then it is revealed that this random woman she has taken hostage is also a super lesbian assassin who helps her fight off all the like goons in this absolutely insane parking garage like action sequence that they lost the permits to shoot for.
One of my favorite stunts in the entire movie is she is rocking the like dual wielded knives, like connected by sort of like a retractable chain or a rope, so that so that she can throw them. And there's one beat in it where she throws it across the parking garage into one of the goons driving one of the two vehicles that are trying to run Kitty over. She gets him like in the throat, and you think that is like, oh, what an impressive action beat. And then immediately she tugs on it, yanking him out of the car so that he can turn into a dummy.
The car door off.
Yeah.
Yes. And he gets run over by one of the other cars. And this beat, like, it took me longer to describe it to you than it takes to happen in the movie. It's about 6 seconds.
Yeah.
And then like a second after that, she jumps and karate kicks through the windshield of the second car directly into the driver's head, like her stiletto. This happens
Yes.
in like 4 seconds. It's crazy.
And before this too, like she's just diving through over moving cars, parked cars. The way that the camera is just going everywhere. Every single shot has about like 50 different squib explosions in the wall or into a body or whatever's going on. It's just like it is unbelievably
So
It's kind of overwhelming. I couldn't
had
take
the
notes
permits.
watching these action scenes.
They had the permits on the first day of shooting. And then they blew up enough of the parking garage that they lost the permits. And then they just
That makes sense.
kept filming.
How they get away with this kind of craziness without permits? It's
I have
unbelievable.
no idea. I guess they just
so
run and
loud.
gunned it. They're
Yeah.
like, listen, our shooting schedule's tight enough. This is happening.
It's like we only need 2 seconds per shot, so we can do this. I swear to God, it does feel like that. It's just there's so much happening, and again, they the way that they design these scenes is 9 times out of 10 there's the 5 to 10 guys that start the scene, and then there's about 15 that pile in halfway through, so you can have more action beats going on as they escape. As there's usually an explosion that ends every action scene as well.
Just the pace and the editing and the sheer number of stunts. It is like completely overwhelming to experience, and you're already trying to reorient yourself from like the narrative swing that it just did. Because like literally within 4 minutes ago, we were being introduced to her dad. Then her dad is dead. Then she's killing dudes in the corporate office. Then she's being assaulted. Then she's taking a old lady hostage. Turns out the old lady is not just also a professional assassin. She is like the professional assassin who trains all of the lesbian league of hit women, essentially. And she and
Part of how she trains these women, by the way, is putting them in with chained up psychopathic pedophiles.
Yes.
the
In
Wong
the-
Jing
in the
flavor.
base-
It's coming
in the
back. It's
basement.
coming back.
In the basement of her base.
Yeah.
In the basement of her base are like chained up like raving pedophile rapists that are like chained up like Castle Freak. And she will just like,
And
it's
she just
insane.
practices on them like they're dummies, but they're just crazy pedophiles. It's wild. It's such a crazy. Oh my God. I mean,
Well, and
obviously
the
it's
fact
fun to
that they
watch
are
because you
just
are
like-
watching pedophiles just get their asses kicked, but it's absolutely insane that is even a detail that I'm reading in the
It's
script.
just so also bad taste to just
Oh, yeah, of
watch
course.
like,
Yeah, it's like,
because like the having to do like these Dutch angle, wide angle close-ups essentially of these chained up pedophiles who are like rabid animals in the corner, and she's just like, see how long you can like make it down there for, and instantly they're ripping through their chains and already hopping on her like a dog trying to like hump her or something. And basically the whole lesson is, how soon will you decide to just kill these men?
She kills the first pedophile by like slamming his head into like a metal staircase and like big blood splatter explosion, and she goes up the stairs to like yell at the older woman, and she's like, it took you 3 minutes to kill this guy. That's much too long. There was like 5 screwdrivers down there, a gun on the wall, a rope dart. You should have been able to kill him quicker.
Yeah, if in normal circumstances, he probably would have like raped you. You should have just killed him right away. And she's going through some of the dialogue of how she's instructing her on, you're killing these bastards who deserve to die, and I'm going to give you the training and credentials to do so, and also like make money and be powerful and rule the world like a powerful woman and all this kind of stuff. And she's just like, are you training me to be a hooker or an assassin? And she's just like, we're training you, to be a weapon. And killing a man with a knife and high heels or a toothbrush, they all have equal power.
One of her tips is remember, like, no matter man or woman, they're always at their weakest when they're reaching orgasm, and that's the perfect time to kill someone.
Which definitely it translates to the other thing where she's like, our body is the weapon. So they start to use their sexuality as means of seduction. But then, like you said, even physically, when they get them to that point, that's the time to strike.
Which is taken directly from obviously Basic Instinct again. It's like the opening scene where it's just you have the sex scene going and she's waiting and waiting and waiting to grab the mirror shard or the knife or whatever, right? And so that's how she's instructing her how to kill every single guy they come across in this. Just also get paid to do it and to hang out in an awesome like femme fatale style mansion.
All this like insane bad taste stuff. Now picture in your mind like the most beautiful interiors you've ever seen in any movie. movie. Like beautiful, like monochrome, like production. Is that the fucking like green chair room where they're like lounging together on two like
green apples and green grapes.
Yeah,
and they're
like,
feeding each other.
Chessboard tiles and stuff
in like bathing suits.
They're always in high fashion. It's and I also like all the things where she starts getting trained and then she picks up on certain things that she's been good at. Like, but of course they always have to kind of juvenilely sexualize it, where she tells her that she's been like to let the teacher know that she's, you know, kind of understands her patterns. She's been like, I've tracked your orgasms over the past 3 nights and stuff like that. Yeah. It's just the ways that you've seen these kind of moves in other assassin films where it's like, you know, I've picked up on certain patterns of your day to day or whatever, but just everything in this is done that way in a sexual manner or some type of kind of overly violent or whatever it is.
The scene directly after this is there is a scene where Simon Yam and his partner are at another crime scene.
Oh no!
And the guy's dick is missing.
They can't find his.
They can't find his dick. And in very sort of Wong Jing fashion, the partner, Simon Yam's partner, is eating, you know, big,
he
long
calls,
sausages.
by the way, in the entire film. Is his name just Dickhead, or my subtitles
that's
wrong?
what he's named in my subtitles as well.
His name
Very
is just
funny.
Dickhead.
But yes, the missing penis is in like a ceiling tile or something like that. Like it falls out and lands in the partner's sort of
Fast
plate of
food
sausages.
container. Yes.
And while they're having this whole conversation,
You
like,
won't
his dick's
believe
gone.
what
We can't
happens
find
next.
it. We can't find it. His partner just starts chowing down on this new weird sausage.
I love this movie, dude. I love it. I really do.
Wong Jing is a fucking menace, man.
How long he shows him literally just open mouth chomping on it over and over again, going, "Where is this penis?" Like,
in the corner is like, we found the balls, and then he's holding the sausage. Wow, it's like the same color as the sausage I'm eating right now, and then he chows down on it.
Oh my lord! It is wonderful.
It's such a ridiculous movie that you include, you know, like you don't even have time to like really register that is exactly what you're watching happening before there's just like, well, we got to get back to the you know, sort of thing. Kitty and Sister Cindy are doing their sort of assassination of a Japanese Yakuza guy, which involves them sort of grinding on him until they wrap a wire around his neck and decapitate him.
It's like, not just a decapitation. It like his whole body.
It's an explosion.
Explodes. Like fucking Cassavetes in the Fury or something.
Well, and it even
insane.
feels like the way that it there's a hard cut almost where they're I think they're in a different location and then they cut to almost like a mannequin.
To them practicing on a dummy where they decapitate
and so that
it.
implication that they just did that to the man is just unbelievable. And I really thought that was a really cool way to show it, I guess, without really showing it in some regard, because it still has such a violent impact to the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. And at this point I started getting confused because I was trying to figure out how the woman from the beginning of the film fit into all of this, and luckily around this time is when they start incorporating that, because then they introduce another assassin named Baby, and I was like, where the hell did this woman come from? And she's doing like a, you know, the sort of Hong Kong action version of doing a murder inside like a Wild Things or like Showgirls like pool essentially. And we find out that she is the sort of underling and sort of romantic partner of the assassin from the opening, Princess, who we then learn was a former pupil of Cindy's and formerly in the role that Kitty is in, learning from her, and I guess was like, you know, possibly a former sort of star student that has gone out on her own and really lives by the code that she teaches you, which is that you should have no sort of romantic involvement with men, or honestly kind of with anybody outside of just like sexual seduction, and you should kill people for money. And of course
that's the Femme Nikita thing. Don't take your eye off the ball.
It is straight up, even though Wong Jing is like, eventually the arc here is that it's like, well, that lifestyle's kind of sad and lonely and you're probably going to die, but it's also like they all die in the other version of events too, so it's not really better for them. But
Yeah, this
regardless,
whole like poolside seduction where they're like ripping parts of the clothes off of the Mark's body until he's like fully nude. And then
and making out next to the corpse. Like
Princess appears in the pool, like razor garrots him fully nude. They like knife him to death. There's a shot of like Princess just stabbing the hell out of like his face.
Yeah.
And then it's a shot of them making out in the pool that is now filling with blood from this guy that they have just eviscerated. It's dizzying.
And then going, hey, did you hear that the Japanese have a contract out on these 2 lady hitmen who are annoying them? Do you want to take it? Like,
It is so funny how long it takes for that scene to become narratively relevant.
Yeah.
The whole time I'm like, yeah.
And then this is when they start doing the
I felt the same way about the milk. There's a lot of references to milk and people drinking milk that I could not believe actually became
it's really funny that it pays off.
Slightly relevant to the plot.
Yeah, incredible.
But also not really, because it doesn't end up actually working. But either way, we'll get to that.
But for a moment.
Yes. So in the sort of Nikita style, Kitty now goes under like an alias. And there's I forget how, but Simon Yam ends up at Sister Cindy's sort of mansion complex to investigate Kitty, and she's just like, I know I look exactly like this person that you've talked to and made out with, mere days ago, but I promise I'm someone different now.
Vertigo moment, where
Yeah,
like, is
and
this the
that's
same
where
woman?
she does the basic instinct leg cross, is while she's in this like insane like orange dress with like a hat. It's a crazy outfit. And he takes her into questioning because he's like, oh, well, my boss saw this woman and she can identify her. And then instantly he is found dead. And they're like, oh, yeah, he just shot himself in the head.
It is instantly, too. It's like he walks out of the office, walks back in, and he's done.
Yeah, like 5 minutes ago, we just heard a gunshot and they open up dead.
Yeah, because Cindy has become very protective of obviously her new sort of protege that she has taken on. So she is behind the scenes eliminating the people who might recognize her from her old life. And the only reason that Simon Yam's character recognizes or even notices her at all is because of the past relationship. And because I think she was the air hostess or whatever that they said
That's
was
her cover. That's her
around.
cover, is that she's an air hostess from Singapore or whatever. And they're like, it's a really big mansion for an air hostess to have. And they're like, well, maybe it's her dad's house.
Yeah, but she also, is still kind of, she can tell that Cindy's method here is to eliminate first all the people who are going to get in the way, and that it does include Simon Yam's detective, and that is where Kitty kind of gets triggered to being like, well, I don't actually want to kill this guy. I do think this guy's kind of nice. I do think he's kind of cute. I do like to eat raw meat dinners with him.
Yes, which I guess is to like provoke his. I don't know, he almost throws up at that as well, which is very funny.
I thought was funny. Yeah.
It's like, this is not a cooked steak.
This is another insane beat. Where he thinks
the waiter buddy, right?
Yes,
where he's like, this guy also witnessed her previously, so I can get him to identify Kitty, but she looks so different because of the way that Cindy has dressed her up and her newfound sort of confidence and all this, that he doesn't recognize her at all. But it turns into a hilarious beat where he goes, nah, you're wrong, man. That this is a totally different woman, And then he walks outside and Cindy runs him over with a car, thinking that he identified her.
And I gotta say too, the stunt work here is insane. This guy just looks like he gets straight up smoked by a car.
He gets rocked.
And then they do like a 4 times repeat from different angles of the same impact, and it is just it really looks
the Jackie
dangerous.
Chan stunt team special.
Yes, exactly. It looks so dangerous and painful. It's quite the stunt.
And this is where I think in passing, Kitty sees Princess and Baby for the first time in like a passing car. And I guess this is, I don't know, she recognizes them, or she understands that like, oh, these guys are going to be trouble.
Yeah.
Did they run him over?
Or maybe they run him over, but that makes less sense. I guess maybe they were just being jerks.
Yeah, they are insane.
Run up this random guy.
I was trying to create narrative logic where there wasn't narrative logic.
Come on, man.
And then there's this dream
Jing.
sequence. There's this dream sequence directly afterwards where Simon Yam it's like, oh, Kitty just got shot, and Simon Yam goes to like visit her in the hospital, and it turns into like them having sex in the hospital bed, and then she takes out a gun and shoots him in the neck with a machine pistol, and then it wakes up and it's revealed that Simon Yam was dreaming. But the aesthetic of everything else in this show, in the movie, is like as gauzy and dreamlike as everything else. So it
doesn't play like a dream sequence
never
at
for
all.
a second does it register as a dream sequence.
Yeah, I legitimately actually was like, wait, did we just kill off Simon? This is crazy. Because like everything is heightened to that extent. Totally agree with you. I found that to be kind of strange because I don't know if there's been, like, I can't name many other films where everything is heightened and they still try to do a dream sequence that is the same.
After last season, brother. After last season, brother.
Also true.
The whole thing,
But there is no visible distinction between that and like the big sort of sex scene of the movie, which is, you know, when sort of Kitty and Simon Yam are, you know, have truly been like, we're going to link up whether Sister Cindy wants this at all. And, you know, whether she disagrees essentially that she should be having any sort of romantic relationship with a man. But like that sex scene is functionally shot the same way as his like nightmare sex scene. The only difference is that it's cross-cut with Princess witnessing this through her sniper scope and getting so horny for Kitty while watching it that she starts going to town on Baby, imagining instead that she was making love to Kitty, who she is sort of becoming obsessed with. And
she's so enraged that she sees Kitty making love with the man that she then like takes her sniper scope and
shoots
like,
her gun at the ceiling.
Into the ceiling.
She does a point break. Good. Like, come on. That's crazy. And I do like the fact that this turns into, instead of like an assassination scene, but just a cross-cutting of softcore is.
I would like to say, before this actual sex scene, there is another dream sequence where it is sort of a shared. I don't know the mechanics of this. It's like a shared erotic dream between Simon Yam and Kitty, where they're both like drinking milk in a bathtub and sort of just writhing in their respective beds. It's crazy. Like everything in this movie, it's crazy.
They're so connected.
And it's another,
which is
another
funny.
setup to the milk.
There's the setup for the milk, and actually we'll talk about it too, but in Full Contact there is actually a sort of like connective memory fantasy thing between the two romantic characters, but that one is more due to the crossfading, it's more coherent. This one, you're kind of a little bit like, what the fuck am I watching? Why is milk involved? And you'll find out why milk is involved very shortly here, because, my God, they, you know, have the sex scene that they have, which I will also mention starts, by the way, outside in the rain on top of the red car as they're just rubbing each other on top of the car in multiple different...
It's kind of like The Counselor. Look at all these films we're referencing here.
I know, it's just... It's, you know, every single person has been stealing from Naked Killer and they just didn't know it, or maybe they did. But this does build us to a really, really ridiculous finale, essentially, where Kitty does confess to Simon Yan's detective that she is a sort of professional killer and that making a relationship with a cop is basically impossible. And unless he were to quit or they were to kill her boss, Cindy, which, you know, he can't because he vomits anytime he holds a gun, which, you know, something he still needs to overcome at this point. But Princess makes the case that Kitty should essentially leave her man for her because she can do everything that he can do better and is also a better killer.
All at the mansion together. They all meet like at the mansion, and there's a part where Princess very pointedly kisses Sister Cindy.
Yes,
it's funny because they make it. There's a lot of emphasis on this kiss, but there's a lot of it doesn't register as like specific emphasis on anything because. There's a lot of emphasis on everything in this movie at all times. Yeah. So it never feels like a setup. It's just like another.
It felt like
another
aestheticized moment.
It's incredibly important for the movie that she turns out to be kissing her with poison lipstick. So
that is activated by a glass of wine.
Oh my gosh, so when they do their attempted sort of assassination fight sequence later with like the armed goons breaking in and Cindy going full sort of gun fu action star on them, by the time she gets to all the sort of the flipping martial arts fighting with Princess and Baby, she is already in the process of dying due to the poison and also essentially falling for her own trap of obviously sex being the deadlier form of violence, and that she let her former pupil kiss her, even though that shouldn't have been the case. And there's a really horrible detail they include too, where it sort of paralyzes her before it kills her, and she Princess just basically says, hey, any of my goons had sex with a professional assassin woman before? Well, now's your chance. And I was very happy that at least someone in the production was like, okay.
The one and only moment of discretion in this entire film.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am glad that they cut away from that. That would have definitely soured the viewing for a little while there. But,
especially because it's just such obvious a plot device for Kitty to basically be like, look, and she receives this posthumous video she even leaves for her explaining to her. It's like, don't feel sad for me. This is just the fate of people who live killer lifestyles like I live, and you should try to find love in your life and not be like me, because this is just what's going to happen to you.
That posthumous video is so funny. It's like fucking Jamie Kennedy in Scream 3 or whatever.
Yes.
Like, I left you this note.
It also is like complete
one
opposite
last thing
of
to explain the movie to you.
Yeah, it is also completely opposite of what she's been telling her to do the entire movie. Like, there's not been one moment where she's been like, go the other way. She's been basically like, you need to become a stronger assassin, get more.
She also doesn't listen to her. She literally goes, I'm going to go track down Princess and Baby, and I'm going to kill these people. And she shows up dressed in like a tight leather outfit, trying to seduce her and get her to dump Baby for her. And of course, she finds her working out in like her home gym or whatever she's in.
And Simon Yam is independently tracking her, and he's like, he meets some guy on the street. I forget exactly what the link is investigatively, but he shows her like a picture of Princess, and he's like, oh yeah, that like lesbian that hangs out at the gym all the time.
I wonder if she's been ripping these penises off.
And then it cuts to like Princess like doing like fucking bicep curls.
Yeah. And of course, like after like rubbing each other down, because you don't just do bicep curls and just not rub the homies down after,
Yeah, there's a whole like
saxophone.
action beat with the pool again.
Yes, another one with
where
the pool.
Simon Yam is able to shoot his gun for the first time underwater. There's like an underwater squib on Baby, which is crazy. There's a whole like fight scene, and then they end up, I forget how they end up back at the mansion again, just because I guess they were just so in love with that.
It literally doesn't make sense. They literally just kill off a lot of the goons like that are there. They get in the car, they drive to the mansion, and they go, we probably should have finished that fight, because they're just coming here. And they're both like, they're just coming here.
We put all the production design into that set. We just got to get them over there.
We just got Cindy's house looks way cooler for a final set piece. So if the characters could just drive there real quick.
You do get a really cool beat where Princess just jumps from the top of like the second story onto the motorcycle, like it's a steed or something, and then just motorcycles off.
Awesome motorcycle.
Those moves are good.
It's another good. It's another good double with full contact. Motorcycles.
And you do get a very fun like sort of 2v1 fight with lots of jumping and kicking and knife throwing and grappling between sort of Princess and Kitty and Yam's detective.
It is like what I like a lot about sort of Choi Hark productions from this time, where the wire work is so ambitious that the action sequences become like a feat of engineering almost. Like within the spaces, like all these fucking like wire work pulls and sort of like physics defying moves and stuff. It is insane that it is as legible as it is. And it's a great fight. I think it's a lot of fun.
I really like too when it gets even like, I love all the explosive stuff when she like goes through the window and everything. I think that's great. But it is really cool too, where they get almost more grounded and intimate for a second, even though it's still very stylized, but they have kind of like this leg entanglement jujitsu moment where they're just trying to like break each other's legs through the entanglement of the other's legs. And I thought that was a cool way of both having still a little bit of the sexual element, I suppose. But also it just, everything else in this movie is tons of gun work and people being thrown through tables and everything else. So just having
and they're
going to
go back to the ridiculousness, but they're going to do a moment of grounded fighting, and then they're like, Princess's like exploding ring goes off in Kitty's face, and then Kitty ends up putting her own poison lipstick on, but delaying the fast acting nature of it by chugging milk beforehand, which is the detail. And the whole, she goes through in great detail saying that it's meant to give her enough time for her to get her stomach pumped while Princess dies, but then it's also not enough time, so they just don't.
Princess dies,
they just don't
and Simon Yam comes in and she's like, I was just bluffing, I'm definitely gonna die like right now.
I really, that detail's kind of funny that she's like, I just didn't want to tell Princess that she got away with it. Fuck
I just wanted her to
That's so funny, man.
And then Kitty is also like, and also the house is filling with gas right now. I forget how that happens. And then she's like, I'm dying. And then Simon Yam is like, where you go, I go. And then,
full doomed lovers, Romeo and Juliet.
I love
Finally, he's able to hold the gun and use it without vomiting, and he uses it to shoot the fucking gasoline and blow them both to pieces.
Yeah, and then they
end
fuck
credits
in the
roll
fire.
over. Yes, end credits rolling over them like making out engulfed in flames.
Yeah,
beautiful.
I loved that.
Yeah,
I honestly thought that was great.
And he says a line earlier in the film that ends up mattering, which is, I would rather be killed by her than like be dumped by her. And he was like, I'm not
hell yeah,
not letting go of this woman. And he does not
what
let go
a
of that woman.
romantic film.
Yes, it is.
Ultimately, at the very end, choose love is what Cindy says, and
choose
what
love and
the moral of the story.
Together.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
But along the way, God, you have a lot of insanity to go through. But if we're pivoting towards reductive rating round, I think on the Naked Killer here, which for you Christians, remove all the words and all the nuance and drop a rating between 1 and 5, and also any final statements or any final little moments we maybe didn't hit. But for me, this was a surprisingly solid 4, considering early on I liked it, but I was like, holy fuck, there's no way they can maintain this. Like, and I think on some level it's a little true that like the mania of that, even that opening prologue murder, is maybe not sustained for a large part of the movie. But as long as you're interested in the insane Wong Jing flavor narrative logic of the movie, and you find that part of the manic absurdity of the movie as well, then I think you could argue that it does. And I found the tone and structure here to be just one of the most bizarre I've experienced, even in the realm of Hong Kong action cinema from this period, which is saying something, because I think those movies frequently get pretty... Wasn't that long ago we talked about Eastern Condors, where we were trying to figure out some of the really grisly war movie and how that combined with the more sort of acrobatic sort of martial arts movie, and some of the ways our brains were firing back and forth trying to figure out what movie we were in. And I definitely felt that tenfold while watching the manic, hyper stylized music video insanity of this on a visual level, mixed with just the crudeness and the graphic juvenile character writing and sort of sense of humor that, even based on the premise of being like a league of sexy lesbian femme fatale assassins ripping dicks off across the city, I was like, there's going to be a little more tastefulness to that, I'd imagine. And it just never hits. You're like, nope, that dude is chomping on a fucking dick that fell into his food. There is the threat of sexual assault and rape around every single corner, though thankfully they do try to limit themselves a little bit to being like, we're going to cut away from some moments, and then we're going to show you a wide angle Dutch angle close up of a rabid pedophile that we are using as sort of a chained up fighting object in the basement. And even simple stuff in this, like the fact that he's just doing a Basic Instinct riff, and he is doing the classic, here's a cop who's trying to get his manhood back and trying to overcome something, and including the details of he literally has never gotten a boner until the events of this movie start happening, and his boner is directly connected to whether or not he throws up holding a gun or not because of his manhood, and his partner is named Dickhead, and I could not believe the details of this.
Things. Oh my god!
That's just it. It's like describing this. How is this anything but a 4? You know, like
This
it's just
is so good.
It is kinetic, and it is insane, and it is vulgar, it is hypersexualized, and so every moment of it, you know, being unfocused or being, you know, maybe, you know, flat in specific ways to do with characters and writing, it didn't matter to me. I was like, this is straight up, if you wanted the erotic thriller craze that happened in the 90s, but you wanted it merged with the 80s and 90s Hong Kong maximalist actioner, this gives you that, and does so with zero class, which I'm saying in a positive way.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this, you know what? I think it could have been more tasteless, personally. I loved this. I thought it was just so bizarre and tasteless and just kind of trashy, and it just relentlessly that way. And I think when a movie is going to do something like that, definitely the hyper stylization helps you kind of get on board with it. If this is something you can get on board with, it really helps you ride that wave of just absolute chaos and insanity throughout the entire thing. I mean, the stunt work is unbelievable. It is pretty crazy how much of it is in there, given the 90-minute runtime and how fast things move. It was a little difficult at times. I had to kind of, throughout the action sequences, probably just put down my phone and not write any notes, because it's just how fast things happen. I kind of had to just take it in and then maybe write what I could remember afterwards, because there is a lot happening every action sequence. And
My notes in this are so long. Something is happening always, all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is honestly, for my notes, it's longer than most 90-minute films because of just how much is packed in here. They will have parts in the plot that you would think in another movie would take 10 minutes, but it takes 2 minutes, and it's just, you know, you go on to the next thing.
Halfway through, I forgot we were introduced to a father who had been cheated on and had fallen down the stairs and was stabbed to death, and then his attacker had been stabbed in the asshole and shot in the butt cheeks.
Like it's unbelievable. And I think I mean the direction is truly fantastic. I love also a lot of the fighting has these weird low angles and Dutch angles to it that just kind of creates another weird surreal aspect to the look of the film. And I think for the most part it does sustain its just pacing and insanity. It's pretty cool too that we're talking about like Basic Instinct, Wild Things, Showgirls, The Counselor, while we're talking about a Hong Kong action movie. Just having all those things mixed in with stuff that we've talked about many times on the show is very cool and interesting also. So for me it's a pretty strong 4. I don't think this could ever get to like a 5 because of some of the things that I would always have to wrestle with, but I really do love this film just for how unique and crazy it is. So yeah,
I coast about there as well. It sort of suspends in the limbo between a 4 and a 5 for me, because it is sort of, I don't know, narratively very free associative. It has a sort of Calvin Ball-esque momentum to the proceedings where at any point it could swerve into an absolutely insane, like 2-minute digression. And then another one comes and then another one comes, and you never get like firm footing at any time because anything can happen. It's a very sort of intoxicating cocktail to me. That's sort of like, it's so hard to like sum up my thoughts on Naked Killer. It's a very difficult movie to put in a box like that. But I think I'm pretty happy with a 4 on that as well.
Yeah. Hell yeah. There was also just a
4 out of 4 dismembered penises, as they would say.
That's right. And before we wrap it up, there was a couple things. I saw this Simon Yam interview, and he was briefly talking about it. And there was just a couple funny things he said. He said he actually felt really, really bad about being with all the beautiful women in the film, because in Hong Kong it was very, very like hot and sticky, so all their sexual scenes were incredibly uncomfortable, and he said he felt bad about being sweaty and stuff. And I just thought that was funny, and kind of like just his personality and the interview Simon seemed like a kind of like a sweetheart.
Yeah, he got the script and he was very excited. He was like, "Wow, it's a sexy script. This should be great."
Yeah. And then he also, just ironically, because just the ending that we got, in that same interview, and I don't even think he's associating it with Naked Killer, but he says that he loves movies with happy endings. And I was just like, well, that's kind of the opposite there. I guess, you got your heart on back. That's good.
It's true.
But yeah, anyway, I just thought that those things were funny. Simon Yam's a gem.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to continue to talk about more Simon Yam, which we are going to be doing shortly as we wrap up Naked Killer here from 1992. And we're going to be right back, and you're going to want to stick around because we're going to be talking about the absolute insanity that is Ringo Lam's Full Contact. Stick around. All right, we are back, and we are talking Full Contact, the 1992 Hong Kong action thriller directed by Ringo Lam, written by Nam Yin, and starring Chow Yun-fat, Anthony Wong, and once again Simon Yam as a trio who get sort of messily involved with each other over gambling debts and loan sharks and end up on a dangerous heist together that goes wrong and triggers a whole bunch of vengeful violence and destruction. This is our third time talking about Hong Kong writer, director, producer Ringo Lam. Once again, York University in Toronto alumni legend, a really important name in the Hong Kong New Wave, whose Cops vs. Crooks sort of gangster jewelry heist action thriller City on Fire from 1987 is, sort of largely considered alongside John Woo's A Better Tomorrow in 86, basically the sort of birthplace of the, what would become the Hong Kong heroic bloodshed sort of crime actioner craze, especially those starring Chow Yun-fat, who was the lead in both those films that, sort of dominated their industry for the next decade. The difference being that while Woo really helped set the sort of stylistic baseline for the sort of more sort of romantic tone of the sort of destructive ballets, Ringo Lam was, especially in City on Fire, the more sort of grounded in, sort of gruesome and bleak. And I remember when we talked about City on Fire when we were watching it for the first time, and we were a little surprised, honestly, because it had been, I had constantly put it in a box with those John Woo movies that I had never thought that, despite the fact that it, the industry wide, there was this sort of practical maximalism of everyone loved blowing shit up and shattered glass and squibs and everything. But, even though you still had the quasi brotherhood character drama of Chow Yun-fat having this crisis of conscience over going undercover and sort of befriending criminals only to betray them, sort of like proto Point Break style, his actual filmmaking just did not lean as hard into like the heartache and melodrama as much as something like you get to the finale of The Killer and you're just like, you're so overwhelmed with feeling for those characters. Whereas Ringo Lam, and definitely from the other movies I've seen as well, especially just the action oriented ones, I actually haven't seen a lot of the sort of more political ones that he did, but there was a sort of chaotic ruthlessness.
School on Fire. School on Fire.
Prison on Fire and School on Fire both seem like I need to check them out immediately. I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
Are those those ones, from what I understand, are more sort of like crime drama-y?
Yeah,
right?
There's a sort of social element to a lot of Ringo's sort of earlier stuff, where School on Fire is a lot about the sort of like Hong Kong schooling system, in the same way that Prison on Fire is, as you might guess, about the Hong Kong prison system. And there's a lot of like sort of institutional critique. And then, every so often someone will get sort of killed in a horrible, brutal way, the sort of action crime elements.
That.
Yes. And honestly, City on Fire has some of that too. I mean, there's some pretty stark police brutality in City on Fire that I find notable even among sort of other heroic bloodshed films.
That's what I find comparing him. Like he does feel different than those other films, and part of it is because he has a graceful control over the filmmaking, but he really does emphasize the sort of blunt force physical harm and sort of collateral damage.
There's a great foot chase in City on Fire that is all about how fucking exhausting it is to be in a foot chase. And at the end, like Chow Yun-fat gets away and is just like heaving, like really exhausted. It's a lot more about the sort of like physical toil and exhaustion and sort of closer to the vest a little than like pure bullet ballet.
And when any character dies in his movie, it is a brutal, sort of headshot where you see their blood line the wall, and his camera then cuts to the hole in their head as their lifeless body just sits in your mind for a little bit longer than it should. And it's one of those things that, he thinks about the consequences of what these characters are doing to each other more than even filmmakers who frequently showed you the same things, but just did it with a little bit more of that, sort of pageantry, or this is a ballet, this is a romance film in some capacity. And, weirdly enough, I think Full Contact, having watched it just for the first time and saved it, is actually kind of the closest he ever got to kind of trying to get that
I was
character
say,
romance
it's funny
going.
that we talk about the Ringo Lamb style is he plays it very close to the vest and it's all, gritty and sort of closer. And now we're about to talk about Full Contact. This is his full-blown heroic bloodshed movie. Like this is again, he's always been associated with that style, but it was just the things that separated him from those other filmmakers. While I think some of those details are still here in this movie, this was the one I think I've noticed picked up on the most, where he was like, I am going to get involved with these characters really emotionally, and like a lot of other filmmakers, I am going to shoot them in really hyper stylish close up, slow motion, and I'm gonna doodle on the soundtrack so that you get a feeling of what these characters are kind of feeling for each other and the yearning they have, and then I'm gonna have them destroy each other's bodies in the way that I like to do that. I think that the relevant quote I found from Ringo Lamb is he's talking about, because School on Fire, Prison on Fire, they came under a lot of like censorship. Like those films ended up being like a pain to get released because there was a lot of like crackdown on some of the content and themes and stuff. And he was just like, I was sort of sick and tired of doing like a political films that would just get me yelled at all the time. So I wanted to make something that didn't have to do with any of that. And I wanted to make a film with a style no one could put a finger on, was his quote. And I would say he succeeds in spades here.
Yeah.
Because the aesthetic and sort of style of this is like Naked Killer, dizzying, intoxicating. It's I fucking love this movie. I love how it looks. I love how it moves.
Yeah, that was the thing that maybe surprised me the most about it, is that I went in so prepared with my previous knowledge of how Ringo Lamb stacks up in comparison to someone like John Woo, and especially something like The Killer, which only came out a few years earlier, obviously also stars Chow Yun-fat, also has this kind of crime, revenge saga where you're getting involved in the sort of this trio of character emotions, and there's a love triangle component to it too that we'll get into. Anthony Wong is obviously in it as well, who's in Hard Boiled as well and is fantastic, and here he has a sort of interesting arc of dweebish coward to kind of really grisly sort of gangster sort of character, that arc that he goes through. But I just was so shocked that this has like a front to back electric guitar soundtrack of just constant wailing and riffing, really, really over the top and stark, like primary color lighting and the constant haze of smog and fog, even over top of like the very textured and clearly real sort of like Bangkok location work that I think is beautiful. The character writing is ridiculously we have to get into the fact that Simon Yam is basically playing a gay magician thief who is also a homicidal maniac, and Chow Yun-fat is essentially playing a punk biker bouncer who also is like a bruiser out of like a side-scrolling
it's very like Tom
video
Cody
game
in, Streets of Fire or something.
Their costuming is amazing. Like Simon Yam has like these very over-the-top suits with like zebra print, and
he's got like a Wild at Heart snakeskin jacket at one point. It's crazy.
Totally. He almost he kind of does look like Nick Cage and Snake Eyes or something like that a little bit. And then Chow Yun-fat has like a leather vest with no sleeves and dog chains and headbands and stuff. It's just like the complete opposite of like they're just almost Rambo macho thing in a way. And I love too when you mentioned the electric guitars. the way they utilize them is amazing, because what they'll do is have a lot of like this soft synth work that's all behind it, and then the only big thing that's happening, the big dramatic instrument, is the wailing electric guitar, and they only ever use it when something cool or smooth or suave is happening.
Yes.
So it's like the accent of anytime you see something awesome, you just hear wow, and it just gets you going.
What I heard was that Ringo Lam, for a lot of movies that he does, he picks an instrument that is going to sort of symbolize the movie. So for School on Fire, there's a prominent bagpipes on the soundtrack because he remembered hearing like the bagpipes during his like graduation ceremony from his English school in Hong Kong. And so for this, Ringo Lam's like, well, we have a rock and roll biker movie, so we're going to emphasize the electric guitar on the soundtrack, which I think is so beautiful.
So
but
it's just a great way of going about scoring things.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, you know what, I am thinking like, just because it's my favorite of just the wailing guitar that's very like ambient almost and powerful but beautiful. But then he also has these great moments, like there's a few of them where he uses music to kind of crescendo the montages that he has, and a lot of these things turn into just full rock songs and everything that feels very, honestly, more 80s than anything. But I just like the way that his films look, and the style is still very unique to him. But it's a great score. It's so fun.
It is.
Yeah,
Everything is sort of
it
dialed
serves
in
a
with the
distinction.
tone.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and it serves a distinction from the other Heroic Bloodshed stuff, which was always scored to like canto pop, and that was what their device to get it to a melodramatic place. And I just found it so sick that I immediately was like, oh, there's that Ringo Lam touch. He's gonna throw some cool ass electric guitars, but then he proved me wrong, because he was like, I'm going to use those electric guitars to get to that melodramatic place.
Yes.
And I was like, man, this guy, he cannot be stopped. Because like right away, again, this was a movie that pretty much instructs you how to watch it in its opening scene, the same way as Naked Killer, where it was like images of a Buddhist temple, electric guitar wails, introduced to this homicidal thief named Judge, obviously played by Simon Yam, rocking the oversized 80s like Miami Vice villain suit jacket, the pink and purple pocket squares, and tons of tacky stage magician fits throughout the movie. And he's essentially robbing what I guess is like an antique shop, but he's
looking for the golden Buddhas.
Yeah, the golden Buddhas. But one of the first things you see him do that I think sets the tone for what you're about to watch is that he lights his cigarette with a match that is his thumb.
Yeah.
Because he does these, throughout the movie, he does these constant sleight of hand tricks. And I mean, his big one is he does it with a gun. Every time he shoots someone, he does it in this way where you never actually see his hand holding the gun, because it's a sleight of hand magic trick.
It like comes out of a handkerchief that he fires.
Exactly.
These were all designed
almost.
So all the sleight of hand was designed by a Hong Kong magic company called Alex Yu Magic Show and Party Planner Co. So that's a little plug for you.
There you go.
It's very funny that they got like
him.
a consultant for sleight of hand stuff.
Yeah. I also when he initially did that too, it reminded me of this, one of my favorite moves that an old noir film does, Double Indemnity, where they do this thing where they put the match in between their finger and thumb and then flick it and then light it that way, and it looks almost. I mean,
Humphrey Bogart could light a match off of any surface you put in front of him.
And as soon as he did it, it just reminded me of that. But also this one else, because it's like purely his thumb, there's that, that little mystery to it and a hyper stylization to it. But it was cool just to be reminded of that. And
there's definitely some old school neo-noir stuff in this. I mean, the basic setup of this movie, similarly to how Naked Killer was essentially doing Basic Instinct, this movie's doing Point Blank, like straight up. Like the Chow Yun-Fat's entire deal is that he is essentially betrayed during a heist by his sort of cowardly sort of best friend who he's trying to give a hand to, and he essentially spends the rest of the movie sort of presumed dead and coming back and haunting and sort of vengefully making his way through the criminal network that, essentially tried to kill him, but it's just done in this Hong Kong Heroic Bloodshed style. And also, we're enough years into it that you can almost feel Ringo Lam kind of like playing with that and being like, how ridiculous can I get? Like some of the characterizations for the eccentric goons in this, where you have one maniacally giggly and horny woman in a miniskirt named Virgin, and you have a like roid raged out dude named Dino who is like dressed as like a mohawked leather punk,
in some translations
like the Warriors
he's just called
or something.
Psycho. which I think is very funny.
That's even better. I wish that was the translation I had.
He was apparently a former Mr. Hong Kong bodybuilding champion, which is
That makes a lot of
good
sense.
frame for that. If you've seen Riccio, he's the guy that rips out his own guts.
Oh,
Amazing.
shit.
I love Riccio.
Awesome.
I didn't pick up on that, but he's great in both movies, both great movies.
Yeah, and
Here, the first thing we see him do is whip out an M16 and literally just start executing cops and also shooting it into the air while they drive away like they're bandits in like a Western movie.
Yeah. It is incredible stuff. Like we were speaking on the ruthlessness of Naked Killer and like they have that same thing with these characters that are very cartoonish, but like the violence they're dishing out is insane. Even not just like to the cops, but to Simon Yam's character stabs like the worker in the stomach a bunch of times before stealing from the safe and everything, and it just feels almost unnecessary.
He does a sleight of hand flourish to reveal the knife and then stabs her in the chest.
Yeah, it's like it just feels so unnecessarily ruthless. And there is definitely that kind of aspect of the film a lot of the time.
Yeah, sort of like willful excess.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Ringo
Which is
Lamb
it's a great place for a movie to live in. At least I think
it's our
so.
favorite place.
Yeah,
it goes right from the
um,
opening. It goes right from the opening into the opening credits. Great title card on this, which has the like rose with wings into the like title, and then it's
and the fact that it's like a sort of showgirl style routine in a sort of nightclub that the character Mona works at, who is essentially with Chow Yun-Fat's Jeff in my translation. I must have had the Americanized translation.
Yes.
But he, is someone who essentially, sort of works as a sort of freelance bouncer at the club, but also is clearly just a guy who hangs out with his motorcycle boys.
He's a cool guy.
At just a cool guy everyone likes. And one of the first things we see him do is breaking up some bathroom sex by going, "Sex is a holy thing. Do it in your bedroom," and kicking them out. And unfortunately, you kind of know right away that this guy is like he's a stand-up guy in the community of a outlaw criminal. And unfortunately, he is also good friends with a guy named Sam, played by, once again, Anthony Wong, Hardboiled, Infernal Affairs. He has gotten into debt with a loan shark named Hung, and he's the type of guy to, ride out in the middle of the night in the rain, do a cool sort of slow-mo walk up to these guys and fight for his friend. And the sort of difference in action styles from what we saw in Naked Killer and this was so stark to me that it made me realize that I was like, oh, I was judging the action sequences on a very different scale, because the amount of deliberation and the amount of control and the way that, Ringo Lamb paces himself to use, not just throwing manic insanity at the screen, which there's absolute pleasure in its own way, but man, there is nothing that hits harder for me than someone who knows when to pause and when to wait and when to really make the impact hit. And there's an extended sequence in this essentially where he's using the sort of clean framing and the movements, and he's got this really lean and mean sort of choreography, and you have Chow Yun-Fat sort of like punching dudes in the face and then sort of like doing this sort of Jackie Chan, like licking his thumb, hurling dudes into car doors, getting out of the way out of sort of like machete blades, and just the patience to have that bit where he's like, this fight is escalating and you guys need to chill, and he whips out his butterfly knife in his punk outfit. And the detail of him holding that knife in the rain just outside the garage door, and the guys being like, fuck, is he gonna like use that on me? Why is he doing this? This guy is like behaving strangely. And the detail of him grabbing one of the dudes and holding the knife to his wrist, and the Ringo Lamb detail of seeing the blood just start gushing out of this guy's wrists all over his knife, him throwing him away, putting the knife back out in the rain, and you just hear the sound design of the rain cleaning the blood off of the blade while the neck, he goes, you want to go next? Like there's just so much power and weight to how it mythologizes the Chow Yun-Fat character through pure style.
It's really like efficient, like character work, like iconography as character work, where you get like a sense of every, like all these characters deal within maybe, a minute of meeting them. You know exactly what they're like, exactly what kind of person they are through like insane action and sort of composition and iconography, I guess. Like, that Chow Yun-fat is the coolest guy of all time. Instantly.
and that he clearly has like a real confidence in himself, because he doesn't just mess with the henchmen, but later on he goes up to the gang leader or the loan shark and just punches him right in the face.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that has been threatening his friend with death and cutting his hand off and whatever else just 2 minutes ago.
They're like, Loan Shark Hung owns all of Bangkok.
Yeah, so
he just decks him right in the face.
He knows the power that he holds, and he knows what he wants to do to people that, do anything to him. So it just, to have his character do that, I was actually surprised, and it does just automatically reinforce a strength in his character that you kind of just have a trust for him, that he's going to be able to get into whatever physical altercation and he might be okay. And even threatening to some of the crazier psychopaths that we see later on.
Well, yeah, and in classic heroic bloodshed, like what we like about these movies specifically, it shows the extreme physical expression of what this guy will do for his friends.
Yes.
And that's a really important character detail for him, like in order to get a guy out of this desperate financial situation, he knows his friend's a bozo and got himself into it. This is what he's willing to do. And not only that, he is willing to go along with his buddy's very ramshackle, thrown together plan of sort of robbing. At first, the idea is robbing a bank together, but then he suggests that they link up with Simon Yam's sort of eccentric psycho crew, which we already know what kind of heist they're pulling off. And it just so happens that, Anthony Wong's character happens to be cousins.
Yes, I like the detail that Anthony Wong took out all this money from the loan shark to help pay for Jeff's mother's funeral.
Yes.
Which is, I think, a nice little bit of shading to Anthony Wong, who is, for a lot of this movie, a kind of weasel and stone cold, like, just kind of asshole.
Yeah, but he feels like a weak man that at the beginning is trying to do his best, but doing it through all the kind of dumbest means in a way. And like he means well, but he just doesn't have that same kind of like tact and strength that Jeff has.
Yes.
But again, I do like the next scene where they're discussing the plan that you guys were talking about. But there's also like, this scene is maybe the one out of a very few that have not that hyper stylization too much, because they're just kind of discussing what their means are. Like they need to rob this bank because it looks like they're in a very bad situation financially. I think like their place even looks like darkly lit, and it doesn't seem like as just over the top as everything else that we see.
But so have you ever wanted to see Chow Yun-fat bathe himself using a bowl in a blue lit, like moonlit room, and then dry himself off with a Harley Davidson bandana?
Man,
speaking of iconography.
Oh man, it's good stuff. And this is also when they kind of establish the relationship that he has with what's her?
Yeah, with the dancer, Mona.
Yeah, with Mona. And it is, it's pretty sensitive, and they're kind of
it's a lot of them holding each other to electric guitar solos.
Yeah. And I do like though that it still has kind of Chow Yun-fat's like playfulness, because at the end he kind of bites her a little bit and it surprises her. So I do like that they throw in a little bit of that.
This mark made by my teeth is even more valid than a marriage certificate. Which is a great...
That's the line right there, buddy. Oh, man. So, yeah, very likable.
But again, you can see that they're really building up that, Chow Yun-fat, cares so much about this sort of group of friends that he has gotten together, and he is willing to go to extreme physical lengths to help them, including going on this extreme sort of heist sequence that we witness, which, starts with them sort of just like meeting the opposing gang of characters who we've already been introduced to. And we know that, are these guys going to get along? We're not totally sure. But we also know that of the two sort of alpha dogs, you are going to have the sort of classic, what is usually sort of homoerotic homoerotic subtext between sort of protagonist and antagonist, sort of longingly respecting each other or sort of obsessing over each other. It is text here. Simon Yam's magician legitimately, you know, at one point talks about how he does just want to fuck Chow Yun-fat, and their first meeting is like classic heroic bloodshed, like the goons start, you know, disagreeing and fighting with each other, and you have Simon Yam assert his dominance by doing his sort of sleight of hand gun firing trick in front of Chow Yun-fat, and Chow Yun-fat is like, dude, you do not get to do that to my friend. So he responds by doing the exact same move to his goon, and the two of them just look at each other in this beautiful, just like yellow lit, like lens flare sort of gazing at each other, being like, we are the two sort of big dogs.
The first thing that Simon Yam says to Chow Yun-fat is, your eyes are mesmerizing.
I also do love the direction of this action sequence. It actually was one of the ones that kind of reminded me more of what we see in Naked Killer, where it's a little bit more fast paced and sporadic, because like they're surrounded by all these like 100 wooden chairs because they're in a boxing ring, and so they just start fighting in them, and they're tossing chairs at each other. They're breaking through them. There's a bunch of shots.
Noir meeting place too, a boxing ring to plan a crime.
Definitely. But yeah, they even have shots of like their feet breaking all of the chairs as they're running through them and kicking them and stuff. It's very cool. I liked it.
All the fighting in this is choreographed by Lau Kar-wing, which is the brother of Lau Kar-lung, who is like a famed martial arts director in his own right. Lau Kar-wing is also, I would say, as good as his brother. He, not to get too far off the narrative, but I would recommend to all listeners Lau Kar-wing's Odd Couple, which has some of my favorite weapon work in any film.
Ooh, I love that.
And it features Sammo Hung and Lau Kar-lung as old masters, and they also play each other's students. So they're in goofy old man makeup, and then also like them as themselves fighting at full speed. Definitely recommend. Like, all the fighting in this
sounds awesome.
Rock solid, in full contact. By, like, a guy who really knows like the fundamentals.
Yeah, it's great fighting and also great gunplay too, because Lau Kar-wing, from what I understood, was, of the two, he kind of specialized more in fitting in the more modern gunplay, because Lau Kar-lung only ever did like really one movie that fits that bill, and his brother did the stunts. Tiger on the Beat, and his brother did the stunts there. So the big chainsaw fight in that, and the big move of Chow Yun-fat like whipping the shotgun attached to like a rope that's setting it off and going around the corner, like those are Lau Kar-wing choreographed sequences. And he did Armor of God for Jackie Chan too, so you can tell that like he focused on getting all of those old school techniques him and his brother did in as early as the Shaw Brothers days in like the 70s, and was updating them for the heroic bloodshed kind of movement, which is where sort of Lau Kar-lung, it kind of felt like never really quite fit into this. I mean, he was still trying to get Jackie Chan to do fucking wire work in Drunken Master 2, right? So
I like the sort of like modern weapon work that is in this, with like Chow's butterfly knife and a lot of the, you know, gunplay and whatnot. I think it's a great meld.
The militarized choreography of the actual heist, when they straight up like just, you know, they stop in front of like this car carrying a bunch of sort of like arms, and the fact that you have like Virgin throwing grenades into cars, and you have them just whipping out the M16s and just firing into the driver's seats through the windshields, just the glass and the explosions and like the muzzle flashes, like it's incredibly beautiful. But it has that Ringo Lamb quality of every single body hit is spraying blood, and you're facing the bodily consequences of what these guys are doing.
Ringo's early specialty. Like, he gets his start as like second unit director, and doing like vehicle stuff is like his specialty. Doing like a lot of like car stunts for other movies and stuff, and the car stuff.
I mean, you can tell watching the huge highway fucking car chase and the flip that Chow Yun-fat has to do.
I also love all the character stuff that builds before all the violence takes place. In
Virgin
the heist,
fucking like, masturbating in the car.
Virgin like coming in the car. I like that. Like the way that they organize the partnerships within each car doesn't make any sense at all, and I love that. Like they actually have the two guys that
of does.
Well, I mean, in a way, but like you meet. Okay, your initial meeting, you have these two almost kill each other, and then you put them in the same car during your heist. That's just hilarious.
Yeah.
Like so,
and they're just staring daggers at each other the whole time.
They're like not getting along, and it
makes specific sense from the point of view of Judge, who is trying to have every single one of the other characters' crew watched over by his crew because he knows he's going to betray them.
Right, and it's so funny too because it's like they're constantly just prodding the others. Like it's the whole setup is just how unsmooth they are, kind of as a team before things do. Things go well enough until it doesn't, and Simon Yam's character Judge does something really brutal. There's a lot of just chaos amongst the character work before even the violence takes place, and I loved all of it.
Oh, and this whole set piece, it's because they film in Thailand. Apparently, the Thai government is like very cooperative. As you can see on screen, the thing with like the Hong Kong government is that they weren't super supportive of like local productions at this time because it was like a colonial government, so they wouldn't like really be a ton of help with like permits and stuff. And Ringo's like, yeah, if we just film this in Thailand and we just give the Thai government like a bunch of money, they'll let us shut down bridges. They'll let us like do whatever. We can go nuts. And they do 100%.
They did.
Hell yeah. It looks
they
so
explode
because it is.
So many vehicles in this sort of opening sort of assault, this like military assault they do when Judge's, sort of goons end up taking the truck and driving it away, and Chow Yun-fat, has to chase down Judge, but also because the fact that Simon Yam's character executes their sort of third buddy. And just the Ringo Lam detail of this is something that someone else wouldn't do, which is having his executed dead homie on his lap for the entire chase.
Yeah.
It's a crazy
and you just constantly
squib.
Blood all over Chow Yun's fucking face. Like, God.
It's a crazy
crying.
squib too. It's like in his cheek. He gets shot like through it's unbelievable.
They do a lot of that too, where it's like they don't necessarily always show the entire squib explosion if it's like a headshot, but they do quite often. But regardless, they will always cut back to show the aftermath of whatever they just did to the body. And it is ruthless every single time. It's crazy.
Well, yeah, because and that's why I think Ringo Lam and Heroic Bloodshed is such an interesting mix. And I wish maybe he had had a couple moments where he was like, I am going to lean into it a little bit further, because this does feel like the big one where he's like, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to still maintain the details that are like the opposite of what other people would do at this. And I thought about it a lot during the big sort of the way that this set piece in particular climaxes, because, you don't just have details like and Chow getting into sort of a one-on-one fist fight that escalates into a knife fight where, Jeff once again sort of proving his intensity and how much he will fight for his friends, literally grabs his knife and then has his fingers fucking lobbed off. Like, that's a detail Ringo Lam would mostly include. But the one that really blew my mind was when they, basically Judge's goons decide that they are going to commit a full gunfire massacre in their general direction. They end up slaughtering an entire family in the background of this scene who were trying to be like, why are you having this fight just like on our lawn? This is fucking crazy. But the spray is done in this like peck and paw style fashion where every single character is squibbed up, gets absolutely annihilated. You're just watching a family die in the background of what is like a fun two guys martial arts fighting sequence, you thought. You end up with Chow Yun-fat stuck in the house while it's catching on fire, and you get the moment of a classic Heroic Bloodshed moment where he's like, I am going to get out of here. I'm going to grab this girl. I'm going to put her over my shoulder, the teenage daughter of this family, and I'm going to get her out of here. It's a huge, heroic, just physical effort he puts on display. And that sequence ends with him dropping her on the ground. She's basically nearly burned alive. He didn't actually really, save her. Like, the consequences are still there.
It's an insane
that was the thing where I was like,
too.
it doesn't feel like it's such a heroic moment that by the end of it doesn't end up feeling that way. It makes you just feel bad.
Yeah, he's completely overpowered.
And it's like really grotesque, like burn makeup on this like small child.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus Christ.
He keeps adding these things. Like even mid-fight, they have Sam come up and start to cry over Chung, who they just lost, who is a friend of his. But then he's also trying to balance the whole relationship with the gang, who he's cousins with. And then after they do the whole Sam Peckinpah spray of the family, they go in and just to add like another thing of like sadness and like a cute thing that makes it sad is they have a little puppy dog just sitting there like amongst all the
beautiful Boston
blood.
Terrier puppy who he adopts and ends up driving around with him on the motorcycle and like bathing with him and stuff. It's a very hilarious, like sentimental inclusion in a movie that's otherwise incredibly brutal.
Yeah. And I like that he does it's that kind of it's the opposite of what we were talking about with Naked Killer, where it's like we have all of this ruthlessness. It is on screen. He's showing it to you entirely, but then he always has something to kind of remind you of like the humanity that's actually being lost here. Yes, and
this is definitely has an anchor in a way that Naked Killer absolutely does not, and runs as far in the opposite direction from as possible.
yeah, totally. So yeah, just great stuff.
Well, yeah, and again, it's leaning into how, as we always talk about in Jaw Woo movies, how the extreme physicality of the action is emotionally expressive, and I found that how he behaves in this sequence and the depth of the betrayal of the fact that he's stuck in that house while it's on fire, and Anthony Wong is clearly being like, look, these guys are going to kill me if I don't take shots at you and kill you. Yes. And, you know, just the depth of that betrayal is what is going to fuel the entire rest of the movie, including an extended, like, montage sequence that is essentially, you know, him recovering, but, you know, everyone thinking he's dead, and Sam comforting Jeff's girlfriend, who is sort of crying about losing him, but also Sam is in this sort of drunken despair and ends up stealing his girlfriend. And
did we mention that Sam faked the death of
so
Chow
they send
yet? I didn't even know if we mentioned that.
Yeah, Simon Yam's gang sends Anthony Wong in to be like, listen, if you're with us, you got to be with us. So you go in there and kill Chow Yun-fat.
Well, he takes the first shot near his heart, and then he doesn't shoot the rest of the bullets. And I was kind of like, well, you seem like you kind of still left him in there to die.
Yeah, that's the thing. He kind of almost takes it.
He doesn't leave him in a burning
half
building.
And half. He's kind of like, I will shoot him once, and maybe he will die. But if he doesn't, then I didn't really kill my friend. So it's kind of best of both worlds situation. It's very, it's. Well, that's the thing about Sam, though, and I kind of liked his character that way. He's very complicated. Like it feels truly like he is still emotionally wrestling with the fact that he's lost his kind of family here, but at the same time there's so many moments where he makes really weak-minded decisions, and just like he doesn't show a strength to his character at all.
It's like Chow Yun-fat's like my loyalty. Guy, but listen, I gotta know where my bread's buttered here. I gotta throw in with these guys.
right.
Well, and that is what, you know, fuels Chow Yun-fat's like mission to sort of come back, which is, you know, sort of displayed in this extended sequence of him in like a sort of like Buddhist hideout on like a river, where he's like getting fake fingers put on. He's having baths with the dog. He's returning to the burned girl who is also sort of healing and recovering, and who we find out he eventually makes his return to sort of pay off some of her medical bills, and, you know, to really is make up for some of the things that he's done.
It is really distastefully grotesque burn makeup on her. Like, she is fucking
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, they go pretty over the top.
She looks like Freddy Krueger.
There's like nothing discernible left. It's pretty brutal.
But it's like, hey, he's hanging out with this girl who needs help, and there's sick melodramatic rock music playing over this montage of him using that as fuel for the fire to get stronger, and doing a Rocky training montage and planning his revenge, which he, you know, nearly he starts by nearly drowning Sam to death, and then also being like, here's what it's like to be shot at like by your friend or whatever, and firing at him in the pool to scare the shit out of him. And
now he's acting like a ghost, basically, like someone's stalking them or something like that.
Yeah,
Yes.
which is where that awesome bit of crossfading I was referring to earlier comes in, where Chow is just again. There's so many movies you could say he looks the coolest he's ever looked, but in this moment, I was like, dude, when he is just smoking in the moonlit room and he looks up to the top of the frame and it crossfades over to the ceiling and her swimming, and then it's her in her room thinking about him holding her from earlier in the movie, and literally the two rooms where they're hanging out alone thinking about each other is literally being combined, like their memories are bleeding into each other.
Yeah.
And I was like,
And
this is sick.
Doesn't he also like imagine, is it shooting Sam? I was a little confused on who, like someone at the end of that kind of sequence falls into the water, into blood, and then there's something of like a wake up call almost with Chow's character, and I wasn't sure.
Maybe he was fantasizing about shooting.
Yeah, that's but when he does have that moment, though, even though he is fantasizing about shooting someone, he seems distraught about it. So I liked that there was still like he's filled with like a kind of a revenge because of what his friend did to him, but at the same time he doesn't want to lose what he had, and so there's still complications with this character. It's not just pure anger. Also, this is a little unrelated to what we were just talking about, but there's this little sequence right before this where the gang goes into all of like a bar where all these business guys and loan sharks are, and there's this one specific stunt that I just thought was amazing, where a guy gets like kicked over a railing and then he hits a secondary railing and then hits another flight of stairs and then like rolls down the stairs. It's crazy. It looks so dangerous.
He does like a one-story drop from like one railing, his back onto another railing is crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And he falls down a flight of stairs.
Yeah. The stunt work in this is actually pretty nuts. Like later on, this is just related because it's another fall, but there's a guy on a boat that gets shot and he falls over, hits like a tire or something that's on the side of the boat, then gets tangled up in two ropes and then like does a double flip into the water. It looks terrible. It's crazy. So yeah, I had to throw those in there. But
there's some it's just like not weirdly visceral for this era, but like just really solid like visceral impacts and stunts. Even there's a beat in the earlier fight with Chow and Simon Yam during the fist fight where Chow Yun does like a massive leg sweep on Simon Yam. Like, so he sweeps his leg so hard it like knocks him on his ass.
Yeah.
And it's like full shot, like Simon Yam like eating shit on like pavement. It's like, that's like real commitment to like a 2-second beat in this fight.
That's something too, actually, just speaking on Simon Yam. This was kind of in the interview that he was speaking on Naked Killer, but he is not highly trained in Kung Fu. He said that
Chow's
over the years,
way.
he's just gotten really good at acting like it. And I have to, it's so impressive what these guys can do, at least for moments, you know. They're not Jackie Chan, but it's pretty wild.
They both get their start like getting trained up in the like Shaw Brothers like TV studio, like the TVB like studio program where it's like we teach you how to like perform martial arts as opposed to like do martial arts. And they come up in the exact same class together, Chow and Simon Yam. So they've been friends since like the mid 80s. And they do like 10 TV shows together. And this is, I think, their first movie together. Like it was considered
their chemistry
a big deal.
is off the charts. So
It's stupid good.
And they're just like very good like performers together. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of the like what the movie does during this section is it's building you up that these guys are eventually going to run into each other again, you know, at some point, because when Chow Yun Fat makes his return, it's primarily through pressuring the Anthony Wong character to you know, start working together with him again, just, you know, in part because of the betrayal and his lack of loyalty, and also, you know, kind of realizing, you know, that he's returned back to these people's lives and life has kind of moved on a little bit. Like he does realize that he does kind of play like a ghost, and he's now maybe disturbing this new happy life that this entire gang is living out. But he also knows that, you know, that's not okay, because, you know, his life was essentially ruined. So he's going to, at the very least, he's going to get back at the Simon Yam character, which he does through Anthony Wong, who he has realized now, and especially in that scene where they, you know, bring the loan shark in and they tie him to a chair, and he just watches Anthony Wong coldly execute him from like multiple
Ringo
angles
Lam's
of
brother.
bullets. Yeah, bullets just going right into him and blood pouring on the floor. And just Chow, the way Chow looks at him.
Like, oh, this is a different guy now.
Yeah, the stoic expression on his face while he does this thing. He's like, man, this guy would not have been in that scene in the garage he was in earlier that I needed to save him from. So
I think too,
maybe I could actually use this guy. Maybe we can do something here and kind of get back at the Simon Yam character.
I really like the subtlety of how he kind of shows the violence too. I mean, it's still incredibly violent, and you show Sam's face as he's hitting every single trigger, but I love the cut to, instead of like the body getting mangled, it's just the hands that are tied behind the chair, and more blood just keeps pouring onto it, and it's just and you see like with every shot kind of the body just jerk, and there's something about just the implication of it that makes it just really violent still, and I think it helps focus on kind of the character change that we're seeing with Sam.
Ringo Lam just loves throwing in a grotesque, unpleasant, violent detail into what for someone else would be like a fun genre moment to be like, look at these guys working together and fighting their way through a criminal network, and it just does not feel good. You're like, that loan shark fucking sucked ass, and I still was like,
you deserve to get shot 5 times in the face. Point blank. That's tough.
I don't know if you needed to, and I felt the same way about one of the best action sequences in the movie, which is when they go to intercept the sort of shipment of Judge's guns that he's getting.
The like ice factory.
Yeah, and there's just a fantastic bit of choreography in here where Chow Yun-fat just owns these like poker playing goons or whatever it is, like Raincoat, and the whole sequence and the choreography of it is so fantastic, of him holding one and interrogating him with one hand while using his other hand to fight like the remaining guys, and also kicking there's a bit where he kicks the table as the guy is trying to run across it, which makes him fall. There's a bit where he actually, the guy he's holding is used as a shield to absorb a punch from one of the other martial artists, and there's the greatest beat that it builds to, which was just the Ringo Lam touch, which was the guy who tries to attack him with like ice block pliers, which Chow Yun-fat dodges, stabs the dude through the hand into one of these giant ice, like blocks of ice, and then the detail of him with doing that with one hand, the blood just pouring all over this ice block, and him using his other hand to raise the other guy's face up so that he is face to face with, look what I did to your buddy's hand.
And then he says, where's the guns? And then the guy's like, on the boat immediately.
They're over there.
Man.
I think he even wipes the blood off the knife on that guy's face.
He does. Chow Yun-fat, man, Jeff.
He's ruthless.
Is a ruthless dude for being such a character that's still built around being like a loyal, good friend, good Samaritan in some regard. It's like, it's at least to his family. It's like it's crazy what they show him do still to like these henchmen that he just wants answers from, and like the intimidation.
His fighting style is like just pure like pulverizer, like I'm gonna get this done.
And I loved that so much about the character, because you find out, later in the film that that's due to this sort of self-loathing factor of, he's just like, this is what violence is. This is what we did to people. This is what we did to this family. And there's no undoing when you do stuff like this. And that's something that ends up kind of driving the film, is that, you can't kind of take back the consequences of performing violence like this, even if you do, there's a righteousness to it.
It does make the first shot of this where it's on the Buddhist temple. I don't know. It's definitely a bit of texturing.
There's a scene right before this too, where they're at the club with Sam and the rest of the gang and Mona, and the girl Virgin is going through this thing where the big guy and her aren't having sex anymore, so she's frustratingly getting absolutely hammered. And I think that it's very funny that actually ends up being kind of like one of her character traits that leads her into betraying the rest of the group and leading her into like all of this chaos in the end of the film.
She has the Honora car sex scene with Anthony Wong, and ends up spilling the secrets about where this shipment is, which is how they even start the set piece in the first place.
And then you also get the whole thing with Sam again, where it's like his character just keeps getting more complicated, where in that moment it appears that he's just cheating now on Mona and also still getting way too deep into the gang. But you know that he.
But there's a complex feeling in there, I think, too, where he does think, "Oh, like this Jeff is back, and I stole his girlfriend, and I should be maybe leaving her." So
there's that part in the nightclub where Mona's dancing with like another male dancer, and Anthony Wong like hallucinates that she's dancing with Chow Yun-fat on the stage. Like he sees a vision of Chow Yun-fat. Like his guilt's haunting him. Like, oh,
yeah,
shit.
Yeah. I don't want to be haunted by this guy who can throw fire extinguishers and use them as like landmines in midair by shooting at them.
He's so fucking cool in this movie.
God, he's cool.
All the extreme close-ups of the guns when he shoots them too. There's a couple throughout the movie, but that one specifically when it's like half the frame is taken up by just like the steam of them dodging the bullets that they're getting shot by in the room and stuff. And God, they take out so many fucking goons. That's where that guy falls in the water you were talking about, right, Jamie? And then they finally get in that boat and they drive away with all his goods.
Yeah.
I think they're like U.S. Army grenades.
Yes.
All the boxes are labeled like U.S. Army.
Only the best imports, you know, for Simon Yam, which I will say, this does lead us into what is for a lot of people the sequence of the movie, which is craziness. Chow Yun-fat rolling up to Simon, or I guess rolling up to sort of Mona's nightclub where she's doing her performance, and basically saying that he's going to sell his arms back to him, and at the same time he re-announces his existence, that he didn't die, and by doing so he realizes that he is incredibly, deliberately endangered both Sam and Mona, and tells them to sort of pack their bags and get their money and their passports and all this kind of stuff. But it triggers this incredible set piece at her nightclub where, you know, she is still dancing. So that's why everyone kind of congregates here, because, you know, they're all, you know, whether they're using her as a threat or whether they're trying to get her to safety, everyone needs to go to her.
Yeah. And so they all sort of orbit her.
Exactly. And so Simon Yam grabs a booth, and Chow Yun-fat grabs a booth, and they stare each other down while Chow Yun-fat is smoking and doing some incredible, like he's turning the, you know, sort of cigarella around and like blowing it and getting the smoke going everywhere. And you get Simon Yam just like snuggling up with his partner. And there is just this incredible moment where the music is blaring and the smoke is going. Chow Yun-fat even eating a lemon slice. He does so like he's the coolest motherfucker who's like ever lived. And
just the standoff with their sick fits and gun display is just
and they're just looking at each other, not doing anything. They're both waiting for Anthony Wong to arrive and for the destruction to kind of click into place, where just full on fighting with his, you know, his bodybuilder goon, flashing lights. There's the bit where he grabs the broken bottle to try and stab Anthony Wong to death, and you just get Chow Yun-fat shooting it straight out of his hand.
Oh yeah. Or even the beginning when they're taunting each other and Chow is telling the big guy that Sam and Virgin had sex, and that Sam said that she sucked in bed just to make like
and that her breath smells or something,
just to make the whole situation as terrible as possible. And what's funny too is he's like kind of just throwing Sam under the bus in this moment as well.
That's an underrated part of this, is that Chow Yun-fat's character has set the stage for this to be as angry and violent as a confrontation as possible at the harm of his friends.
It's like,
after all of this, he's like kind of fed up.
I've been using you as my ally, but at the end of the day, brother, you fucking suck too. Like,
you kind of suck, man.
Yeah, and I will say the thing that blew my mind about this, because I didn't read a lot about the movie before watching it, I'd been kind of saving this one. The bullet time shit is fucking crazy.
Killer, dude. Yeah.
7 years prior to The Matrix, there is point of view shots of bullets being fired out of Simon Yam's gun, being fired out of Chow Yun-fat's gun at each other. They are shooting each other's bullets out of the air.
Out of the air. Unbelievable. Stand up and cheer, folks.
One of the best ones too, and they do this, I guess, in this kind of secondary finale that we have as well. But they follow a bullet into a guy's neck and squib out and everything. Like it's just crazy. It's
that squib that goes out the back of that one goon's head.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Just nuts. Like things I've never seen before in my entire life. and probably
And then
never
he
will
like
again.
flips over backwards over a table and like does like a fucking legit stunt. Like
Yeah.
every part of the
They start
buffalo.
trying to like bounce shots off of mirrors and glass at each other and stuff too.
this-
Like it's unbelievable.
This was my favorite part of it too, which was the way that they're using the score. Like this all sounds like you would just have electric guitar going off the entire time and like a big hard rock thing. What they actually do is kind of build it through suspense, where you just hear a lot of these like gunshots going off and like the synth work,
Yep.
and there's a little bit of like percussion. And then when anything really cool happens, that's when they throw the electric guitar in, just to emphasize a
Absolutely.
bullet like hitting a head
As it should be.
or glass breaking or And so I like that it wasn't just constantly this like rhythmic hard rock thing. They were just emphasizing moments that added to it as well.
I love that it becomes like a tit for tat, you know, stuff. Like Simon Yam shoots Anthony Wong's like he like kneecaps him, and then Chow Yun Fat like shoots the broken bottle out of Anthony Wong's. They like go back and forth shooting each other's like underlings and shooting at each other, and it's great.
Yeah, but then not hitting each other, but performing this like really big sort of symbolic standoff of I have your goods, you want your goods. I have infiltrated your group and actually broken up your gang because, you know, Sam, you know, you can't trust him anymore. You can't trust Virgin anymore, which is an incredible detail where he actually takes her as a human shield. And I just thought straight up Simon Yam is going to shoot her. And instead he actually, you know, sort of delays the altercation and goes, we're going to meet you for an arms deal later. Gets her back and then just executes her anyway, which is even more brutal.
Yeah.
Than just like shooting her out of, you know, sort of for pragmatic reasons.
And then
it was like, no,
she was even cheaper than my merchandise,
Yeah.
which
like,
is just cold blooded.
Yeah, it's just entirely ruthless. It's crazy. And then this is also when Chow is starting to scold Sam too, like saying, you know, Sam was saying like, well, I was scared, and he's like, well, that's no excuse, which is very much what Chow's character would say. He has that kind of, you know, the backbone and everything that we've established
He says like
throughout.
Well,
at
yeah,
the end of the
because
day,
you
you're
keep
my friend, but you're a failure as a human being, is what he says to Sam.
That's so funny to say. Oh god, that's a funny line.
Yeah, well, and it's so funny that like the Anthony Wong character is like so surprised by this, like what he feels as a betrayal, and Chow Yun Fat is like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? Like you caused this. All of this destruction is a rippling effect of your original betrayal. And there's part of him where he goes like, you are not righteous, you are a robber, you're killing families for no reason, or are at least an accomplice to it. You and Judge are functionally no different from each other in terms of your actions. Like, I don't care if you feel differently about it or if you want some sort of redemption, or because at one point he does confess that he's like, look, I do feel really guilty, and that what happened between us and Mona and that family, like it haunts me. And he goes, it literally doesn't matter. Like, you can't bring those people back. We are just going to live with that for the rest of our lives. And every action we take of this rippling destruction is coming from that.
I do love as a character beat from Anthony Wong that his like tough guy posturing sort of like melts away. Like once Chow starts like dressing him down, like Anthony Wong's not the like cool stone cold killer guy anymore. He's immediately back to that like sort of like weaselly like, oh God, you know, can you just please forgive me? You know, don't kill me, you know. Immediately that guy from the beginning of the movie again. Like once like Chow starts big dogging him,
it feels
Anthony
like
Wong's like, all right, I know my place here.
Yeah, it does feel like the whole thing for him was entirely performative, and I guess like to survive. His character just feels desperate the entire movie, even throughout these like action sequences when he's amongst it. It's like he's running around screaming, sporadic, diving, or like he doesn't have control at all throughout the entire thing, no matter who he's kind of playing for.
It is like a defense. He's so like terrified of Simon Yam that like as a defense mechanism, like, all right, well, if I'm thrown in with the stone cold killer guys, I got to be a stone cold killer, just so that he doesn't like execute me.
Right, but
which he can do at any time.
Yes, yeah, but he's just not capable of it. So
and which I immediately caved on the second Chow Yun Fat came back and like looked stronger. He's like a guy who just constantly schemes with like whoever comes up to him and like asks him.
He's a chameleon, social chameleon, to the most extreme extent.
You know, Very, very briefly, Chow Yun-fat does get back together with Mona as well, and like a kind of a beautiful shot of them in like a grungy stairwell where they sort of reconnect with each other. And it does the sort of like crazy macho-ness of the movie takes a backseat for 1 second because she goes, "Why are you mad at me? What the fuck did I do in any of this? I just thought you were dead and was lost and found comfort in like someone who was both of our friends. Like, I don't understand why you're upset at me." And he's just like, "I'm a walking dead man, baby. You can't have me." And you know, like that's his kind of attitude.
I'm a ghost now.
Yeah. And what's funny to me is he does reconnect with her and then immediately goes into like the final sequence that you know, you would see in something like a Michael Mann movie, like in Thief, when he does go like right after he feel like he's lost all connection. He's like, "I'm going to finally just go put my entire body on the line."
Yeah. They kiss in that stairwell and then she leaves. And Anthony Wong is like, "Well, why didn't you ask her to stay?" And Chow Yun-fat's like, "Why would she listen to me at this point?" Like, and he just sort of like, I let her go, you know, in order to sort of resolve this final thing.
I got a date with Simon Yam.
So watch your ass.
Who calls him on the phone and it says to Chow, like, "I didn't realize your voice would be so sexy over the phone." It's
it's kind of fun. They like flirt before their meeting and then meet up.
And I have to say, this movie has one of the most transcendent endings to an action film I've ever seen.
Truly. It really is. Incredible stuff.
I like jaw on the floor from like the second this one like really kicked off, because it's a classic. Again, it's taking a basic staple of a noir or an action film of this period, where you are getting like they're meeting on a nighttime sort of like dock area to exchange the guns for the money. And I was expecting this to almost be a little bit more like patient with it, but immediately he's like, "You want these arms?" Hurls a grenade at them. It is to the races. It is Chow Yun-fat driving around this ring of fire he's created with the grenade, just executing every single goon that comes into contact, including doing another peck and paw, this time the sort of straw dog's toe squib on the bodybuilder guy before running him over with his bike. Man! And just sitting on top of him while he screams, and
just
then
pointing the gun at him like, "I want you to feel this.
Oh my
God! You
God!
know what's coming."
And it's brutal too. It's like a few shots. Again, it's very similar to the way that Sam took out the loan shark, but this one feels maybe a little more justified.
Look at him. He points a gun at him and he just turns away, spits out his cigarette, and just shoots him without even looking.
Spitting out the half-lit cigarette is such an awesome, extra badass move that he didn't need to do either. Just fantastic choice.
He does a lot of that in this big finale with Simon Yam, where it starts with him shooting off his fingers on his other hand because he just keeps trying to definger this man.
Yeah, he's and I destroyed your right hand, so you trained with your left hand, but now I just destroyed your left hand, stupid.
Yeah, now what are you gonna try to train with your feet? You know,
idiot.
Yeah, and he ends up sort of exploding. Chow Yun-fat explodes all the car's worth of arms with a detonator so that Simon Yam can't get any of them, and then he slow motion sort of like picks up the gun. Both sharpshoot each other, with Yam getting hit, just grazed just over the top of his head, and Chow Yun-fat basically taking it what looks like almost like to the heart, and countering with one of the sickest moves I've ever seen an action star pull, which is that he goes, "You've shot my gun hand and you've shot the gun literally out of my hand. I'm going to whip out the butterfly knife." He throws it, and you get bullet time point of view of the butterfly knife flying through the air and going through Simon Yam's wrist before he can shoot his sort of final shot at him, which is an incredibly grisly detail, while also kicking his gun off the wet, like, again, because it's a torrential rainstorm around
Mission Impossible
these fiery exploded cars.
Yeah.
Yes. He catches it midair and fires it, hitting Simon Yam. And then, because he's lacking fingers, he uses the gun on the ground to prop up his body weight so that he can still, like, look at him and stare into his eyes.
While screaming, "Go masturbate in hell."
Yes.
Yeah.
What a fucking... Are we kidding?
Again, stand up and cheer, folks. Stand up and cheer. Round of applause.
I was in my fucking basement watching this, and I was like, I cannot believe that one-liner, that shot to the fucking trachea that he takes, and just Chow Yun-fat soaking wet, covered in blood, fingers missing.
And like the epic fiery background that's in the entirety of this, because he just blew up every single thing. So it just looks like they're in hell. And then they have the he starts to romanticize again about like the girl, where he's like spinning with his girl, and it's kind of fading in and out of everything. He's thinking about the other friends and loved ones that he's had. It's crossfading
into those memories while zooming in on his face, because we think he's bleeding out, but in the most metal fashion possible. That electric guitar fucking hits. He picks up the briefcase, he gets back up, he gets back.
It's like the ending of
on
Drive.
The motorcycle. It's fucking crazy.
Hell yeah. Oh my god.
And he fucking rides away with half the frame just like the moonlit, like blue torrential downpour, and half the frame one of the cars on fire, full like orange
that,
lighting.
Blue and orange lighting of that whole finale is it's gorgeous.
That final image,
it's crazy.
And then you get the like canto pop, like the normal like Hong Kong action movie canto pop outro.
Yeah, that's true. It kind of goes back to that, what we haven't really seen throughout the...
And there's like lyrics that are like, there is no sincerity anywhere. Calculating manipulators are everywhere. Crazy.
So awesome. And the slow-mo, of course. He's like riding off in slow motion. Can't just have it, normal. Hell no. Got to be cool. I love it.
It's perfect. It's what I want from a Hong Kong action movie like this. Yeah. It's like, it's what I want out of the cinema, really. Yep.
This is my movies, baby.
My new like favorite up there with like, this is up there with The Killer for me, like with John Woo's Chow Yun-fat movies. Like if we're pivoting towards reductive rating round, this was a 5 for me. Like I just could not believe that Ringo Lam, who is someone who I would just have always associated with specifically not doing this specific style because he had just other interests he wanted to capture in the Hong Kong action scene. Like, even though he would hire similar technicians, there was just something about how he would not lean into the melodrama and he would lean instead into the bleakness and the gruesomeness. And normally someone going away from their personal style to make something that's trendier would be something where you feel like something got sacrificed. I did not feel that watching this movie.
No,
I felt like he was like, I'm making this style of movie that has a lot of power and weight to it already, and I'm going to bring my specific details and touches to it and see if they even make it stronger, or see if they even have somehow more impact, or at least they playfully interact with it. And so the idea of Ringo Lam doing a like almost cartoonishly characterized sort of like point blank style plot, but with Chow Yun-fat as a biker punk bruiser, and Anthony Wong as just like this cowardly best friend who's getting him involved in heists, but is willing to cave to whoever the big dog in the room is at any given moment, and to have Simon Lamb in a big dog competition with Chow Yun-fat as a fucking just like a gay magician, homicidal thief who is in love with Chow Yun-fat.
Awesome.
It's so funny that that was Simon Yam's idea. Like, when they get to set, it's like, we should play this like a love story.
Yeah,
they have that chemistry. It works.
Yeah. Like I was going to bring it up when I was doing mine, but just it relates. But Simon was saying that he was like not shy about playing a gay man. And he even made a kind of like a playful joke where he was like, he thought the Kung Fu guys probably needed a little bit more love. So he was just kind of like, I'm going to bring the love to the set, bring the love to the character. Obviously, he's a wild character outside of that. But I thought it was fun that he was kind of playing with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just an incredible trio of characters with extreme emotions they're clearly going through when it comes to their friendships and their loyalties, and the amount of fucking psychotic, sadistic violence that they're capable of doing in order to express their feelings for each other. And Ringo Lam just directs the absolute fucking hell out of it. And it does make it feel like if you like your woo heroic bloodshed, this just has a little bit of that sleazier, nastier edge to it, and has a tone and a logic and a characterization to it that just did remind me a little bit of like if you were to play a fucking like fighting video game or something like that. And these are things that I would think would be something that would make it more of like just an entertainment object rather than something I really felt. But I spent this whole movie going, no, Ringo Lam's style of making you feel the consequences of violence, and Chow Yun-Fat's entire sort of philosophy of being like, we do this, and whether you do it righteously or whether you do it because you're an evil psycho, like this lasts and lingers, and we're going to keep doing it to each other, and just this cycle of rippling violence they commit, and how vividly fucking realized it is through the entire movie, whether it's a bizarre ice block knife through the hand, or whether it's like bullet time in a fucking nightclub, or whether it's this fucking crazy, a family getting gunned down like in fucking Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia or something, or Chow Yun-Fat riding around a fucking motorcycle with a puppy with him and doing a Rocky training montage. Like, these are all tones that shouldn't make sense together, and Ringo Lam somehow makes them all part of a melodramatic whole, and just so beautifully realized. So this was a 5 for me.
For me too. I think it's getting the upgrade. Let's go. It's like this guy really is a master of balancing just multiple tones that are at such extremes that I don't think I've ever seen it before. Like for us to, like you said, for us to feel this rather than not for it to just be pure trash entertainment, I think is really something. It is a testament to just how well directed it is, and just having all of this crazy bloodshed and whatever, but still wrapped around kind of a romantic quality is very interesting. As much as I still love stuff like, Naked Killer, that's just purely like juvenile and extreme. This stuff has all of that, but then still kind of, I don't know, the word is not grounded by any means, but it still feels like there's something a little bit more. Yeah, exactly. A little more anchored. Right. And, I don't know what else really to add. I think that the stunt work is amazing. I think it's a beautiful film. All performances are incredible. The ending line of Simon's character being like, "We should have just made love instead of fight," is really funny.
Masturbate in hell.
Having that macho line be the response is just like, come on, how do you not just love it?
Just surrounded by rain and fire and electric guitar. Fuck off.
It's just like it really is like all the reasons I watch movies. Just to it's got massive escapism qualities. It's maximalist. It's still kind of romantic. It's violent. It's got everything. So I mean, 5 out of 5. Yeah. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm keeping it rolling. That's a 5 for me. I love this movie very, very much. It's my favorite Ringo. It's some days my favorite Chow Yun-Fat. It's so impressive that after like making his bones with like a very different kind of closer to the ground style of Hong Kong action, he just tries his hand at like an insanely aestheticized, like a totally different strain of Hong Kong action, and just crushes it. It really is like,
Ringo, you should have made more of a man. Where'd you go?
The road not taken. No,
your name could be just as well known as John Woo's.
I love all the character work. I love the just visuals of the whole thing. I love like how highly aestheticized everything is. I love that it's also like really sturdy as far as like action sequencing and like the cadence of the editing and the movement and stuff. Like, it's a rock solid Hong Kong action movie at the center of this, and also has like great character work, has great, music. It's just, it is what I ask for out of like Hong Kong action movies. It's like everything I could possibly want out of that. It's like a perfect movie to me. Easy 5.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, same for us. And that's going to, I think, wrap it up for this week's episode. That was the Naked Killer from 1992 and Full Contact from 1992. Thanks so much, Christian, for chatting with us and going along with us, and bringing on some Squib heavy films. I think definitely in the future, if you have other Squib heavy underrated gems you want us to look at, we would love to.
I ran through a couple iterations of this double. There are some other ones I have in mind.
Beautiful.
Amazing. Well, just keep it up and keep sending to us and keep posting all the amazing squibs that you do. There's definitely movies that every once in a while I see one and I watch list it, and it's actually good for the show. So it's very helpful. Is there anything while we've got you here that you want to shout out or plug or anything? Anywhere people can find writing or anything else you want to?
I'm here to promote Major Motion Pictures, Naked Killer, and Full Contact.
There you go.
Beautiful.
Pure love of the game.
Yeah,
Love that.
absolutely.
Amazing.
Do you got a Twitter?
Well, I can recommend at the very least check out at Daily Squibs if you want to see clips from movies.
My little
these,
daily Zen garden. My part of my little daily routine. I give myself a gift every day.
It. It's a great idea.
Yeah, no, real pleasure to come on. Real pleasure to talk about all this stuff. Really, really a pleasure to spread the good word. Hopefully to you, dear Sleazoids listeners, go out, spread the good word.
The Simon Yam gospel.
Oh, he's
for
so
our
fucking
listeners,
good
He is.
For our listeners, we're going to be back in 1 week's time where, as Jamie alluded to, we're going to be going Toxic Avenger Part 2 and Toxic Avenger Part 3 mode because there is a new Toxic Avenger remake on the way, and we realized we have not really explored that franchise outside of the first film, and I'm kind of curious how the sequels go. Even if we don't like them very much, I am curious. So that's what we're going to be doing next week over on the Patreon for you guys, and then in 2 weeks' time, because by the time you guys are listening to this, Jamie and I are actually already at the Toronto International Film Festival. We are already watching 4 to 5 movies a day, trying to find all the best genre movies that are going to be coming out over the next coming months to a year. And you can look over on our Letterboxd where we are going to be doing those logs every day. But in 2 weeks' time over on the main feed, we are going to be doing our full breakdown where we're going to be going through every day and every film that we watch at the festival, the highs and the lows, rather than just sort of like a best of list, which is sort of interesting because we don't usually include, movies we don't like on our end of the year episodes. So it's kind of a bit of a different exercise for us. But that episode, which we did for the first time last year, we will be doing again because once again, Jamie and I are badged up and watching a ridiculous amount of movies, put them in our eyeballs.
So excited. It's exhausting, but I love it.
So yeah, look forward to that. But that being said, I think that's going to wrap it up for everything this week. Thanks so much for listening and keep it sleazy.
Keep it sleazy.